Chapter 1426, Training 2. Didn't you say you feed me great materials? Wouldn't I improve really quickly if I ate them? Mumbled the young chaos beast. The chaos perception dragon said, that's meant to polish your body. Although they can improve you, you have to find a Tao heart on your own. However, don't worry. Since you're a member of the Chaos clan, you only have to believe in the path of chaos. Your Tao heart is hidden in your bloodline and your body. All you need to do is activate it. As for becoming an ancestral god, it's very simple for us too. All you need to do is to activate all the bloodline patterns in your body in order to establish the undying universe. If it's so simple, just teach me. I'll be able to pick it up fairly quickly, said the young chaos beast. Su Ping also said, that's right, senior. I can spend some more time here, just focus on teaching. The chaos perception dragon rolled its eyes so hard that Su Ping almost saw moons in them. I will impart some chaos secret techniques. You shouldn't be here. I certainly wouldn't peep, said Su Ping in a hurry. The large dragon instantly fell silent. The young one further fanned the flames. Do you want to teach me or not? If not, since you said that all the mysteries are already in my body, I'll just learn on my own. It'll only take a while longer. There's no way you can separate me from my master. The dragon's eyelids seemed to be twitching. It looked at the human and the beast, feeling the urge of stomping them flat. If you're so stubborn, so be it. But let's be clear. Once the cultivation starts, you must not interfere. If you do, I will leave with the little one immediately, said the chaos perception dragon to Su Ping. The latter instantly nodded and said, do you mind teaching a few more people? I do. Fine. Su Ping could only drop the idea of asking the dark dragon hound and his other pets to tag along. The young chaos beast was furious. Why mind? I'll be more focused if I'm training with a partner. The chaos perception dragon felt rather helpless. I'm teaching you the chaos secret techniques. Those who are not from our clan can't learn them. They can't even if they want to. It'll only ruin their foundation. You're so unfair, cried the young chaos beast. The chaos perception dragon was utterly speechless. Unfair. It would have killed both of them if they weren't part of the chaos clan. Su Ping coughed and stopped the young chaos beast. Seeing that the senior beast was running out of patience, he said, I'll be here often. Feel free to teach it anything. I won't intervene. Humph. The chaos perception dragon was too lazy to argue anymore. It simply absorbed the young chaos beast into its universe and said, I'm going to polish its bones. Don't disturb us. Su Ping nodded. Once the chaos perception dragon went to lay down on another plane, Su Ping summoned the dark dragon hound and his other pets to have them train with the local beasts. While he also trained, Su Ping's badge vibrated and he detected thoughts embedded on it. After examining them carefully, he realized it was Yan Qing and other elders who were searching for him via the badge. Su Ping instantly sent a message back, asking them not to worry for him. They only had to keep a lookout for the Rain clan. Yan Qing and the other elders felt relieved after learning that Su Ping was safe and sound. They instantly asked where he was at the moment, but he didn't go into detail, simply saying he was in a safe area. Elder Chan sent a message to Su Ping's badge. The Rain clan seems to be contacting other clans to pressure all humans. Su Ping slightly changed his expression, imposing pressure on humans. Weren't they trying to force him to reveal himself? Despicable. Su Ping's face was gloomy. He did say he was responsible for his actions. His opponents obviously didn't consider it a personal action. They targeted all of his clan. Don't worry. The human clan is now on full alert. Thanks to you, many high-ranked clans express their goodwill towards humans. If your fellow humans are diplomatic enough, they can resist the Rain clan with the high-ranked clan's help for a while. We will send someone to help them too, said Elder Chan. Su Ping felt slightly relieved. He asked, any updates about the ancestral god of the Rain clan? The ancestral god, speaking of which, how did you escape from the Rain clan's ancestral god? Asked Elder Chan curiously. It's a long story. Su Ping briefly talked about the chaos perception dragon's help, which baffled the minds of Elder Chan and the others. A ferocious beast helped him. Everybody started guessing about Su Ping's identity. Elder Chan was quick to give a warning. The Chaos Perception Dragon is one of the greatest disasters from the world of chaos. It once slaughtered a high-ranked clan, causing a living hell. It is a common enemy of all gods. Don't get too involved with it. But the creature did me a favor, and I must return it, said Su Ping. But that's a ferocious beast, said Elder Chan right after. Are you related to it by blood? Not exactly, said Su Ping, but a ferocious beast's favor is still a favor. Elder Chan was relieved. He then fell silent. In that case there might be trouble. Elder Chan heaved a sigh. Su Ping was suspicious. Trouble. The Rain Ancestor was defeated by the ferocious beast and failed to kill you, and it is almost certain that you'll grow to become an ancestral god. You're such a great threat that the Rain clan will surely try their best to kill you. If the ferocious beast is protecting you, they'll aim to kill it first. That Chaos Perception Dragon trespassed the Rain clan's territory. It is very possible that they could rally other clans to help them kill the beast, said Elder Chan. Su Ping felt dazed, so the Chaos Perception Dragon could be in danger. If my guess is correct, you must be at the Borderlands, the place the Chaos Perception Dragon calls home. I don't know your exact position, but the Rain Ancestor will probably join forces with other ancestral gods and search for you, said Elder Chan. Su Ping's face changed a bit. It was easy for him to escape, but the Chaos Perception Dragon couldn't resurrect, if it was surrounded and executed. Su Ping looked at the enormous hill-like creature, teaching the young Chaos Beast. After a moment of silence, Su Ping flew over. Senior, didn't I say that I was not to be disturbed? The Chaos Perception Dragon suddenly opened his eyes, almost piercing Su Ping with its coldness. Su Ping quickly repeated Elder Chan's message. Senior, you wouldn't have been caught in this mess if you hadn't helped me. I have a proposal which may hopefully make up for it. Speak. The Chaos Perception Dragon remained expressionless. Sign a contract with me and become my pet. That way I can offer you things that you can't imagine, said Su Ping. The Chaos Perception Dragon gazed at Su Ping. Obviously, it was thinking that something was wrong with Su Ping's head. FCK off. The Chaos Perception Dragon's reply was short and simple. Su Ping smiled bitterly, knowing that it would be a hard sale. Besides, he wasn't sure whether or not he would explode if he signed a contract with such a powerhouse with his current level. After all, he wasn't even a god emperor yet. Fortunately, he could make a breakthrough at any time. If the Chaos Perception Dragon accepted, he could induce the conditions for the breakthrough and sign a contract with the Beast Senior right then. Senior, I'm not kidding. Just think about it, said Su Ping. FCK off. I'm not kidding either. The Chaos Perception Dragon's voice was gloomy. I forbid you to talk to my master like this, cried the young Chaos Beast with its childish voice. The Chaos Perception Dragon was rather angry. He roared at Su Ping, hurry up and leave. It's absorbing the original fluid of chaos. It can't get distracted at this time. You're still being mean, roared the young Chaos Beast. Su Ping smiled bitterly and quickly appeased the young beast. He then turned around and left. After all, if the worst outcome came to pass and the Chaos Perception Dragon was almost beaten to death, he could force a contract by then. Chapter 1427, Imparting 1. Time flew. Su Ping traveled in the desolate land with the dark dragon hound and the rest of his pets, always looking for god emperor beasts as sparring partners. Those creatures were much weaker than the Rain clan's god emperors. After all, theirs was a huge clan with a large heritage of ancient secret techniques. While training his pets, Su Ping was also constantly deepening his understanding of the contract Dao Heart. His experiences through consecutive battles and his own observations made him feel that it had impressive potential, not inferior to the 3 unparalleled Dao Hearts shown by the Golden Crow ancestor. He was delighted. It would have been disappointing if his own Dao Heart wasn't as good. Dao Hearts couldn't be transmitted. The Dark Dragon Hound and his other pets were still God Kings. They could still fight God Emperor beasts on their own by teaming up and following his commands. The gap was huge. Other than cultivating in the world of gods, he would return to the store on occasion. The sailing outside remained in order. Shen Huang, Kai Huo, and the others took turns to direct the planet as they explored. They had not found a second universe in months. Su Ping wasn't too surprised, given that the environment was boundless. There were also many universes that even the heavens had yet to detect. It wasn't hard to imagine how vast the place was. Su Ping consolidated his cultivation over the following months. It was even easier for him to deal with god emperors at the moment. His power output and application was significantly improved. He had already been able to kill god emperors in the past. It would take a considerable toll on him. However, he could instantly kill the lesser god emperors if he gathered the great Tao. How should I cultivate the undying state? Su Ping asked the system. He wanted to become an ancestral god as soon as possible. He knew that there were existences like the Golden Crow ancestor, who were above the ancestral gods. Su Ping feared that they could encounter the heavens while they floated about. Once exposed, it would mean death in the enemy turf. Disaster might strike at any time. Su Ping couldn't relax because of the pressure and constantly sought to improve his combat ability. The undying state is just as the name suggests. Once you cultivate it, no matter how many times your universe is pierced, it won't be destroyed, and since your universe can't be destroyed, you won't die. In simpler terms, it's the closest to eternity. In order for your universe to be undying, you first need to transform your universe into an undying substance. What is truly eternal and undying in this world? Slightly dazed, Su Ping replied unconsciously, Tao. That is correct. The system continued. If you want your universe to be immortal, you first need to fuse the entire universe with your Tao heart and turn it into one of the great Taos. Fusion of Tao hearts, universe turning into a great Tao, Su Ping mumbled. The system's words brought dawn to his hazy future, and he vaguely found a direction for his cultivation. Compared to the Tao heart state, there's ways to reach the undying state, although it's difficult to carry them out, said the system. Once you improve the store to level 8, you will know how to cultivate. Su Ping was speechless. You really are like those booksellers. Booksellers? Su Ping was surprised by the answer. Can't you peep into my mind? The system said indifferently. I promised you that I would respect your thoughts when the store reached level 7, and that I will tell you everything I know when it reaches level 9. Besides, you've condensed a Tao heart, and I could damage it if I recklessly peep into your mind now. That's the real reason why you're not peeping anymore, right? Su Ping complained and then asked. It can damage my Tao heart. What about all the peeping in the past? What are you thinking about? You didn't even have a Tao heart. What's there to be damaged? How do you think I can listen to the thoughts of god emperors? Said the system angrily. Su Ping thought about it and realized it made sense. He was just a lackey in the past. Even a god king could peep into his mind. However, he had already grasped a Tao heart and had essentially become a god emperor. Even when considering all the cultivation sites, he was very close to the top of the pyramid. It wasn't that easy to peep into his mind. However, it wasn't that the system couldn't peep into it. It simply didn't want to hurt him. I have to improve it to level 8. System, can you make an exception? If we encounter the heavens and end up getting eliminated, where can I find customers for you? Said Su Ping. Being the system, you can't be too stubborn. You must be flexible. Are you telling me what to do? The system was angry. Since you know that the situation is urgent, hurry up and do business. Su Ping felt utterly helpless, as it seemed impossible to persuade the other. However, the system had helped him enough and he had nothing to complain about. His store was already level 7. He now needed to train a god emperor pet that could enter the Chaos Talents rank to fulfill the upgrade criteria. Furthermore, it required an astronomical amount of energy. However, compared to the first requirement, the astronomical amount of energy points was easy. One had to consider his recent revenue and the non-stop arrival of customers. It was only a matter of time to save enough energy points. 4 or 5 years would probably be enough. However, it was rather difficult to train a God Emperor beast that could be listed on the Chaos Talents rank. The requirements for level 8 are really high as it is. To reach level 9, you wouldn't ask me to nurture an ancestral god pet, right? Su Ping asked in his heart. Chapter 1428, Imparting 2. The system said casually, normal ancestral god pets wouldn't do. It requires the undying state with at least 2 open Tao gates. Don't ask me what Tao gates are. You'll know when you reach the undying state. Again, Su Ping felt helpless. The system's request was indeed outrageous. Ancestral god pets. Very few people had one throughout history, right? He could only heave a sigh. Fortunately, he had the young chaos beast, the dark dragon hound, and the others. All of them were in the celestial state. They would become god emperors once they grasped their own Tao hearts. They can become god emperors immediately if I help them to grasp the 3 unparalleled Tao hearts. However, I haven't gathered enough energy to improve the store. It would be useless, even if they do advance. They can only increase my overall strength by a small margin, and that increase wouldn't be worth mentioning when facing the heavens. I'll give them a chance to condense their own Tao hearts in 3 to 5 years, which are 3 to 500 years in the cultivation sites. Su Ping mumbled. He had grasped his own Tao heart and was walking on a path of his own. He hoped that his battle pets could do the same. He felt confident and believed in their potential. Even though all his pets had the humblest bloodlines except for the young chaos beast, their bloodlines had evolved and improved on their own after cultivating for such a long time. The limits of their bloodlines were broken time and time again. Su Ping believed that they would surpass their limits again in the future. I'll find time to give them the Tao hearts. I wonder if it'll cause a tribulation in this place. Su Ping's eyes glittered. He had promised them that he would give them Tao hearts, hoping that their cultivation could advance. That way it would be safer for them to fly the ship while he was cultivating. After all, the low-tiered members of the heavens were already god emperors. They could probably avoid the weaker ones if they accidentally ran into them. While resting in the store and fetching his pets, Su Ping sent a telepathic message to his master, asking him to accept a gift. All the Celestials, including Shen Huang, were excited by the news. Su Ping was finally going to give them the Tao hearts. They weren't confident of cultivating to higher levels on their own. Although Su Ping reminded them that the way was to find their Tao hearts, it was easier said than done. Danger could befall them at any moment. Everybody wanted to be stronger. They quickly gathered in Shen Huang's palace. Guys, as informed, Xiao Su is planning to give us Tao hearts, one at a time. For the sake of fairness, I've decided to draw lots, said Shen Huang. Everybody's eyes glittered. A celestial expert smiled modestly and said, Shen Huang, you're too courteous. You should be the first to try. Shen Huang had the same idea, but Su Ping never mentioned anything, and he, being Su Ping's master, was too proud to ask. Besides, Su Ping had told him to find his own Tao heart. He did want to tell his disciple that he was overestimating him, yet he struggled to hold back, all for dignity's sake. Although Xiao Su is my disciple, his achievements are already greater than mine. Now I must seek his advice on a lot of matters, said Shen Huang as he looked at the others. We're the only embers left from our universe. We've weathered disasters by fighting together. I don't think it's necessary to divide us. I hope we can truly be united. Everybody was dazed. They fell silent as they recalled the things that happened before they left the universe. Indeed, they had gone through many dangerous situations. They did prepare fire seeds, but they had probably died out. Only refugees remained. If they were killed, humanity would disappear from the map. Shen Huang, I do admire you for what you said one of the Celestials, conveying respect in his eyes. He had run into conflict with Shen Huang and Su Ping in the conference. He had completely let all of that go and felt embarrassed for his actions back then. Maybe all the Celestials would have perished, destroyed by the heavens one by one without putting up any resistance, if Su Ping hadn't united them. Prepare to draw lots. Shen Huang didn't say anything else. He knew that Su Ping never stayed in the store for long and wanted to avoid wasting the young man's time. Here are 8 divine weapons, including 7 swords and a spear. I'll project them to a disrupted timeline. Whoever finds the spear will go first, said Shen Huang. Everybody exchanged looks. None of them objected. Shen Huang could have cheated. He could leave markers on the weapons to make them easier to find. However, he didn't. He could have simply told Su Ping that he wanted to be first. They believed that the latter would have accepted, considering their master-disciple relationship. Su Ping was even willing to give the Dao hearts away to the people who were at odds with him in the past, not to mention his master. Lots were drawn soon after. Everyone was fully prepared. They took action right after Shen Huang threw the weapons. It wasn't only luck, strength was also a determining factor. Soon after, someone found a sword and, feeling frustrated. Then a joyful voice was heard, "Found it." The fortunate celestial fetched the spear thrown into a chaotic time. Shen Huang was also searching but quickly lost the chance. He was both disappointed and relieved. The others could have thought he had cheated if he did find it first. It wasn't a bad outcome. It was fair and square. His turn would eventually come anyway. Congratulations, Kai Wang. Xiao Su is waiting for you. Go now, Shen Huang said. Kai Hu snorted but didn't show his dissatisfaction, seeing that his old rival had gotten the chance. The times called for unity. If he jumped out and stirred trouble again, it would be against Shen Huang's will. Behind Shen Huang's wish was Su Ping's thought. Okay. Sensing the eyes of admiration around him, Kai Wang flashed a smile and glanced at Kai Hu, only to discover that his old opponent wasn't sneering like he did in the past. He was surprised. Congratulations, go now, said Kai Hu peacefully. Kai Wang smiled and said, I hope you'll be lucky next time. Whatever, it will be my turn sooner or later, the other replied in a casual manner. Kai Wang offered back a smile. He returned the spear to Shen Huang and left the palace. The next moment, Kai Wang appeared outside of Su Ping's store. The place was already crowded, mostly by ascendant cultivators. There were some star lords were waiting in line, but other ascendants had paid them to switch places. Their deals were voluntary, and Su Ping had no time to care about that. He simply allowed it. All the ascendants became solemn upon the celestial's arrival and stopped whispering amongst themselves. It became quiet all of a sudden. Kai Wang was in a great mood. He smiled at the people in line and said, Behave and don't disrespect Boss Su. Don't cause trouble here, all right? Everybody nodded. They were speechless. Who would dare cause trouble? Su Ping was already the well-known commander. The only celestials left listened to his orders. It wouldn't be outrageous to call him an autocratic emperor. That tiny pet store had become a holy land for all of humankind. Is there anything I can help you with? Asked Tang Ruyan, who was at the door. The guy was a celestial state cultivator, but she had long grown accustomed and wasn't nervous at all. I'm here to visit Boss Su. Kai Wang didn't underestimate that Star Lord girl. He was quite courteous. Please report my visit. Oh, I'll go and ask. Tang Ruyan turned around and entered the store. Before she could say a word, Su Ping, who was examining the customer's pets, said to her, Let him in. Su Ping was more or less relieved to see that his master wasn't the first to show up. Tang Ruyan went outside again and said, Go inside. Kai Wang was greatly relieved. He thanked her and then sorted out his clothes before he solemnly stepped into the store as if he were about to enter some sort of sacred palace. Chapter 14:29, Tribulation on Behalf of the Heavens 1. Kai Wang's senses recovered instantly, no longer blocked by the store when he entered. There was an immediate feeling, an immeasurable aura that stood like a mountain. All his pores were shrinking beyond his control. The store was quiet. There was only the occasional voice asking the name and condition of a certain. Kai Wang looked at the source of the sound and noticed a man squatting in front of a ferocious beast, asking it to open its mouth. He placed his head in front of the scary big mouth and looked inside, completely at ease. The pet was extremely obedient. Like a statue, it sat still with its mouth wide open. There was some fear in its eyes, as if afraid of something terrifying taking place by doing something wrong. This is a truly horrifying pet store, Kai Wang thought. Boss Su. He immediately walked over with a warm smile on his face. His greeting was humble, without the arrogance he formerly showed during the conference. Su Ping nodded and leaned back after some examination. He said to the battle pet's master, "It's been eating assorted foods which resulted in blood maggots growing in its mouth. You must ask it to take care of its own hygiene. This time, I'll do the cleaning for free." The middle-aged man felt truly flattered. He quickly replied, "How can I accept your service for free? Boss Su, just name a price or I will feel uneasy." "This isn't important." Su Ping waved his hand, leaving the matter to rest. He invoked the power of Tao and simply eliminated the blood maggots found between the pet's teeth. Those bugs weren't simple. They were the cause for massive headaches, even for that ascendant state beast, as it couldn't kill them. It had to look for a doctor for assistance. However, considering Su Ping's level, he could address the problem even without having any facility or experience. "Thank you very much, Boss Su." The middle-aged man quickly offered thanks, not insisting on the money part. Money was like garbage for people as powerful as Su Ping. Insisting would be taken as an insult. He said timidly, "The usual ecosystem cycle disappeared ever since we left our old universe. Wind spirit birds used to be the ones able to get rid of all the pet's food residue, but they should be extinct now, unless someone contracted one of them." Su Ping fell silent. They could only save their own kind first when they left their home. Humans weren't the only life forms in the boundless universe. Aside from humans, many species were destroyed along with the universe. "One day we will return to our universe in our hometown," said Kai Wang nearby. However, it sounded like encouragement. Such an answer left the middle-aged man shocked for a moment. He was quick to realize who it was and quickly offered a respectful bow. Kai Wang waved hand right after. He then looked at Su Ping and stood with a solemn and pious manner. "Follow me," Su Ping said to Kai Wang. "All right." Kai Wang nodded obediently. He was both anxious and hopeful. He was currently like a model student in school who followed Su Ping dutifully. The latter took him to the test room, which had a boundless space. Su Ping had at first thought that it was some sort of developed technology. But at this moment, he realized that it was a sophisticated Tao application. After entering the room, Su Ping asked casually, "Why did they send you first?" Kai Wang was instantly shocked. He swiftly replied, "Shen Huang asked us to draw lots. I was really lucky to get to be the first." A fair election. Su Ping was enlightened. No wonder his master didn't want him to misunderstand. However, he didn't really care. He would have been more relieved if Kai Hua or Su Kong were picked first. However, since they had set their own rules, Su Ping didn't really care. It was only a matter of time anyway. "Are you ready?" Su Ping looked at him. Kai Wang was rather anxious. "Do I have to make preparations?" "The pursuit of the great Tao is always risky. Are you ready in case you die here?" asked Su Ping. Kai Wang's heart was racing. He asked prudently, "Boss Su, is the risk that high? I'm not really that talented, I'm worried." "It isn't too risky. As long as you're determined enough, I don't think anything bad will happen," said Su Ping casually. Actually, the risk involved when imparting the great Tao was very low, or he wouldn't have offered assistance. He only said it to test the receiver's faith. It would be a waste if the recipients of the 3 unparalleled Tao hearts weren't determined enough. More so, the 3 unparalleled Tao hearts couldn't have been developed easily. Their creation involved a lot of hard work. Well, Kai Wang felt like crying. He had never been told about the risk. He suddenly realized why Shen Huang didn't use his privilege and simply went with a fair selection. It's true that nothing good is free in this world. Kai Wang smiled bitterly. Su Ping remained silent, simply staring at the hopeful celestial. He could tell from the flashing bitterness in the man's eyes that there was some hesitation. "Have you decided?" he asked. Kai Wang's heart shook. Seeing the young man's peaceful eyes, he somehow found the courage and thus took a deep breath. I'm ready. On the off chance I die trying, it'll only prove that I wasn't talented enough. This is the only opportunity in my life to become a universe dominator. I hope that I can seize it. Chapter 1430, Tribulation on Behalf of the Heavens 2. Su Ping gazed at him and slightly nodded. That's the spirit. This is how a celestial should be. Kai Wang smiled bitterly. Countless memories flashed in his heart, seemingly bidding farewell to his past. It wasn't easy for him to reach the celestial state. Although he already had a lofty status as things stood, he was willing to go further after experiencing the fall of the universe. He would do so even at the cost of abandoning everything he had. I have 3 unparalleled Tao hearts. The first is harmony, the second is desolation, and the third is 100 phenomena. He briefly described the 3 Tao hearts. Su Ping had a solemn and serious expression as he said, "Which one do you want to pick?" Kai Wang was astounded after hearing him out, never thinking that those Tao hearts would be as powerful. He found it hard to imagine what kind of great talents could have developed them. I want desolation. The best defense is offense, said Kai Wang after some consideration. Su Ping nodded and extended his hand, pulling the guy closer. He then pointed at Kai Wang's head and said in a low voice, "We're about to enter a different time and space. Try your best to understand." The man felt that his sight became blurry. Then he found himself in a golden space. It was completely empty, only Su Ping was there with a black, lifelike dragon beside him. The dragon was intimidating. Its scales seemed to be made of black iron, while its eyes were deep and cold. Kai Wang's heart skipped a beat and felt like he was dying when the dragon gazed at him. The next moment, he realized that the black dragon was the Desolation Tao heart. Su Ping then began to impart the great Tao. The black dragon surrounded him. Its scales gradually fell and floated before his eyes like black petals. After a while, the scales gradually gathered and reassembled to become the black dragon once again. The celestial received a transmission with the great Tao while the phenomenon took place. He was being enlightened as the information was poured in. A long while later, Kai Wang felt as if 100,000 years had passed. It took so long he felt he had been reborn. However, the only difference was that the black dragon he saw in the beginning was a dragon no more, but a leaping great Tao. Furthermore, that great Tao was made of countless lesser Taos, which condensed into a Tao heart. So this is the Tao heart. Who was it that carried such a strong resolve to pursue the great Tao? They slashed everything to achieve their Tao, Kai Wang mumbled. He didn't realize that there was another black dragon by his side, except that it was much smaller than the one next to Su Ping. It was none other than the Desolation Tao heart he had just comprehended. Su Ping stared at the man and said, "Live up to this Tao heart." Kai Wang was solemn. Right when he had finally grasped the Tao heart, there was a deep shock because of the faith that brought such a Tao heart to life. The overall sensation felt like rebirth. He would never waste that Tao heart, even without Su Ping saying so. The condensation of his Tao heart would have a huge impact on his personality. "Thank you, Boss Su. I'll surely live up to it," said Kai Wang solemnly. Su Ping nodded. As the power ebbed, they both left the golden space and returned to the test room. "Right now, we're outside of the universe. This is the heavens' territory. I fear that you'll attract their attention if you go through your tribulation. So I'll hold the tribulation for you," said Su Ping. Kai Wang's consciousness returned to his body. He was still assessing the enormous changes in his body and the abundant power, as well as reflecting on what he just learned, until he finally processed what Su Ping said. He was stunned. "What?" Kai Wang thought that he was hearing things. "Su Ping is going to hold the tribulation for me. You've received the Tao heart and unified the power of your universe. However, you cannot activate the power in full if your body doesn't go through a tribulation. If the heavens can give you a tribulation, so can I," said Su Ping. Kai Wang's pupils widened in shock. Su Ping's words were earth-shattering. A tribulation on behalf of the heavens. What a terrifying thought, But still, what great confidence and ambition. He dares to compare himself to the heavens. Boss Su, are you serious? Kai Wang couldn't help but ask. I was just kidding. Oh, Kai Wang was greatly relieved. Do you really think so? Su Ping added. Kai Wang was dumbfounded. Is he serious? Feel the changes in your body. We'll start the tribulation when you're ready, said Su Ping. Kai Wang looked at Su Ping, clearly stunned. He thought his head was about to explode. Sharing such news with other Celestials would be like a nuclear explosion. What level is Su Ping at exactly? Giving him a Tao heart would essentially transform him into a universe dominator, which was the summit of cultivation he knew. However, Su Ping could transform them into universe dominators. That method was beyond their imagination. I'll be back in 10 minutes. Su Ping rose and gave him a chance to experience his power alone. He seized the chance to offer a hand with customers and catch up with Joanna and the others. He had spent too much time in cultivation sites and rarely talked to them. He wasn't familiar with the business anymore. So, Su Ping cherished the days when he personally ran the place. 10 minutes passed. Su Ping returned to the test room. He saw that Kai Wang was in an accelerated time and space, experiencing all sorts of powers there. He waited quietly for 2 minutes. Kai Wang seemed to become alert and left the accelerated time and space. He was excited and even more respectful. Boss Su, I'm eternally in your debt. Whenever you need anything, just tell me. Su Ping was nonchalant about it, only saying, if you're done, get ready for the tribulation. Kai Wang was excited. His Tao heart merged with his universe and could ascertain how weak he was before. Maybe Celestials like them were even weaker than ants in Su Ping's eyes. Thank you very much, Boss Su. Kai Wang stopped there. Su Ping was already an absolutely unfathomable existence in his heart and would believe everything the others said. After all, the power he had experienced was real. It was hard to imagine that he could receive such a terrifying amount of power through a single great Tao transmission. Su Ping became serious. It was his first time trying to emulate a tribulation for someone else. He feared that he wouldn't be able to control the intensity well. If it was too weak, it wouldn't be effective. If it was too powerful, it could kill the target. Get ready. Su Ping then opened his mouth, transforming the surroundings into a primitive planet. They entered one of the small worlds that were stored inside the test room. The young man leaped to the sky, unleashing the heavenly tribulation power from his body. The first layer of his universe was the world of tribulation, and its power was bursting at the moment. Boom! Dark clouds gathered, and the sky above the planet instantly turned dark. Kai Wang stood in midair and looked up at the sky, unable to be any more shocked. He felt that his blood was freezing as he noticed the raging wind and the oppressing clouds above him. That was indeed a true heavenly tribulation. Su Ping, a human being, had truly created a heavenly tribulation on behalf of the heavens. Boom! Thunderclouds gathered, with terrifying lightning concentrated at the core, which was a horrifying vortex. Countless silver lightning snakes were wandering in the storm. Kai Wang found it difficult to even swallow. He was both shocked that Su Ping had invoked a heavenly tribulation and scared of the tribulation's magnitude. Is it something he could resist? Did Su Ping want to kill him with a lightning strike? Chapter 1431, Leader 1. While Kai Wang was panicking, the first lightning bolt struck down. The immense sense of crisis quickly dragged his consciousness back to his body. He trembled as he looked up. He was wreathed in flames, and the reflection of his universe surfaced behind his back. As flames were swept out, he unconsciously performed the ultimate skill he was best at. After a boom, the lightning bolt that came crashing down collapsed and the flames began to spread violently, like countless sharp blades, crazily destroying everything in the void. Kai Wang was instantly stunned. Is it my own move? It was like the first time experiencing his new self. So powerful, the terrifying Tao cracks in midair even made him tremble. Have I become so strong after receiving the Tao heart? Thunderclouds were roiling again in the void. the lightning accumulating, was stronger and greater than before. However, Kai Wang was filled with newfound confidence. His eyes were glittering. He gazed at the lightning above with anticipation and excitement. In a blur, he seemed to notice a figure behind the lightning tribulation. That figure was like the great heavenly Tao responsible for all tribulations. He was entranced for an instant, and his heart was suddenly overwhelmed by indescribable awe. Boom! The second lightning bolt struck down. Kai Wang took a deep breath and made a sudden attack. This time, he had a better control of his strength, not exhausting all of it like he did in the previous round, saving 30% of his strength and using the power of his universe to counter the lightning. The lightning collapsed, but the dispersing tribulation aura ensnared his body like countless threads. The stinging pain made his body shiver uncontrollably. Some sort of power seemed to be squeezed out of his body. While resisting, Kai Wang built up his own power. He could vaguely sense that something in the heavenly tribulation was helping him polish his body and break the bottleneck. Kai Wang was overly grateful. That arrogant kid had surprisingly helped him a lot, despite their past grudges. He felt somewhat ashamed. He quietly absorbed the tribulation power, his aura gradually increasing, just like a whale awakening in the deep sea. A heavy and terrifying aura was gradually spread out. Time flew. One lightning bolt after another struck down. Kai Wang gained better control of his new strength while resisting. He blocked them all. Dawn arrived after the thunderclouds dispersed. The figure in the high sky was like a dazzling sun, one that couldn't be looked at directly. Kai Wang couldn't help but narrow his eyes as he looked at Su Ping, to then look away. He examined himself carefully and heaved a sigh in the end. He was immensely stronger than before, when he was a celestial. He felt that he could kill his previous self with one finger at the moment. Maybe Su Ping considered celestials like them as weaklings. The very idea brought about mixed feelings. He found that Su Ping was a rather benevolent person. He would have casually slapped all those celestials to death if he were in Su Ping's shoes after being provoked. There are always stronger people. Our past selves were like frogs at the bottom of a well. So stupid. Kai Wang secretly heaved a sigh. They had been standing at the top of the universe for hundreds of thousands of years, considering themselves to be the top life forms that were closer to the apex of cultivation. In retrospect, it was just hilarious and stupid. Their privileges in the past were a complete waste. He was just an apprentice on the cultivation path. What levels are above the universe dominator realm? Kai Wang looked forward to it, but he knew it would be impossible for him to reach that point in his entire life. It would have been impossible for him to advance without Su Ping's help. If he wanted to go further, he would have to count on the latter. However, the levels above the universe dominator were much closer to the cultivator's final destination. Nobody could go there solely relying on someone else. Su Ping descended from the sky and made a casual hand wave. The desolate planet was gone, and they returned to the empty, white-walled test room. It didn't seem big, but they would have to traverse the distance of a planet's diameter before they reached any of the walls. Right now, you're already a true universe dominator. I hope you won't forget your responsibility and continue cultivating hard. Don't let arrogance rule you, said Su Ping. Kai Wang looked at Su Ping with genuine respect in his eyes. He nodded solemnly and said, Boss Su, rest assured. I will. I have too many questions in regards to cultivation. Maybe the real final destination of all cultivation is to understand everything in the world without having the slightest doubt. More or less, you could say that, said Su Ping. Anyway, that level is still too far away for us. Indeed, Kai Wang thought to himself. He asked curiously and prudently, Boss Su, what levels are above the universe dominator? Are you there? He couldn't help but address Su Ping in a respectful way. Su Ping slightly shook his head and said, Right now, I'm only in the celestial state. Above the universe dominator is the undying state. Once you cultivate it, you'll be among the strongest in every universe. You can then travel across all universes. The corpse we saw before was in the undying state. That is why it was immortal. You're still in the celestial state, Boss Su. Kai Wang was visibly surprised. However, Su Ping's casual expression made him aware that the young man was neither joking nor lying. Chapter 1432, Leader 2. The revelation gave the man a shock. Su Ping, who was barely a celestial, actually helped him become a universe dominator. That was like an elementary school student teaching a college student. All of Su Ping's information and history popped up in Kai Wang's head, suddenly realizing that the boy had always been fighting and killing enemies stronger than him. He was an unparalleled genius he couldn't understand with common sense. What will happen when he becomes a universe dominator? Kai Wang thought. He looked at Su Ping and said, that immortal body was in the undying state, and still, such a great figure was reduced to that miserable condition. There must be higher levels above the undying state, right? Yes, that should be the end of our cultivation path, said Su Ping. It's also the ultimate goal of all cultivators. The end of cultivation, Kai Wang mumbled. He suddenly had an uncanny urge. Only a level separated him from that state. Who wouldn't want to see the view at the end of all cultivation? Although he knew he probably didn't have the necessary potential, he felt a strong desire, craving to cultivate and get stronger. Off you go. I need to enter secluded training now. I'll ask for someone else next time I come out, said Su Ping. Kai Wang snapped out of his reverie and quickly said, Boss Su, I'll always remember your favor. It was stupid of me to have offended you in the past. Please forgive me. That's all in the past, said Su Ping, waving a hand in dismissal. Kai Wang was greatly relieved. He said with a smile, Thank you, Boss Su. I won't bother you any more then. Goodbye. All right. Su Ping nodded. He received a message from Shen Huang right after leaving the store. The latter asked him to go to the palace. He vaguely guessed something and simply flashed over. Kai Wang reached the palace soon after. Lots of barriers had been set up outside the palace, strong enough to fend off celestial attacks. However, Kai Wang found them as vulnerable as paper at the moment. He could tear them apart with the slightest effort. He heaved a sigh, knowing he was no longer who he used to be. Still, he didn't let this go to his head. After all, the other celestials in the palace would reach his level sooner or later. Kai Wang entered the palace, then saw that all the other celestials were there. They never left. Were you all waiting for me? Kai Wang couldn't help but smile. He could imagine how curious and apprehensive were the others about the matter. You? Shen Huang sized him up with astonishment on his face. The other celestials were just as shocked. The palace was caught in a brief silence. Moments later, one of them finally made a prudent question. Have you succeeded? Kai Wang was emitting such an oppressive aura that none of them dared to speak as freely as before. Yes, I've received Boss Su's Dao heart and became a universe dominator, said Kai Wang with a smile. He used to be taciturn, but he himself felt he had become much more approachable. Even Kai Huo, his old nemesis, was no longer as disagreeable as in the past. Just as I expected. Universe dominator, he really did it. I feel like I'm facing that member of the heavens again. All the celestials were mumbling in shock. Kai Wang's transformation was too great. It left a deep impact on them. B-Boss Su was able to make one of us turn into a universe dominator so quickly. What kind of terrifying being is he exactly? Asked one of the celestials all of a sudden. The others narrowed their eyes. They discovered, to their surprise, that the answer was beyond the limits of their imagination. Kai Wang chuckled upon noticing their reactions. He was just as shocked as them earlier on. He said, I asked Boss Su. The universe dominator realm is not that impressive. There's still the undying state above it, and after that is the true final destination of us cultivators. It means that I'm still an apprentice working my way up. I'm still far from the top. Everyone exchanged bewildered looks. Shen Huang had mentioned that state earlier, but they only believed it until that very moment. If you're just an apprentice while being a universe dominator, then what are we? Worms, said a celestial with a bitter tone. I think it's better to call ourselves trash, said Kai Huo. Everybody flashed helpless smiles, mulling over the matter with mixed feelings. They had previously taken themselves to be the top life forms, while the universe dominator realm was just a legend. They finally realized that they were no different from the mortals they looked down upon when in the presence of real experts. Kai Wying, how many of us do you think you can defeat at once? Asked Su Kong, curious about Kai Wying's improved combat ability. They all sensed that the latter's transformation was great and terrifying, but they wanted to know the specifics. You. Dazed, Kai Wying noticed the curiosity in their eyes. He felt amused by it and answered with a smile, one hand. You mean 5? Everybody was stunned. No, Kai Wying shook his head. I can beat you all with just one hand. They answered with dumbfoundment and silence. None of them thought that Kai Wying was bragging, since the guy was indeed emitting an ominous, abyssal aura. Even though he was just standing there, they felt they had been put in a cage with a ferocious beast and were unconsciously suppressing a bone-deep fear. Besides, the universe dominator realm was the heavens level. They had seen those creatures' combat ability, which was too high for them to withstand as they were. The cultivation path is long and hard. We haven't even embarked on it yet, said one of the Celestials, feeling disappointed. I hope I'm next. I can't wait to experience this kind of power, said Kai Hu, clenching his fist. His whole body was itchy, seeing his old nemesis relishing in the spotlight. Kai Wying smiled, still silent. He merely said to Shen Huang later, You should all get ready. I can take care of moving the planet for now. You can replace me next time one of you advances. I can figure out a way to avoid the heavens if we encounter them. Shen Huang nodded. You can take the wheel then. Right, didn't you have to transcend the heavenly tribulation to break through? Asked one of the men present. Kai Wying put on a mysterious smile and said, I did, but it's not a heavenly tribulation. You did. Everybody was dumbfounded. None of them saw any signs of a tribulation. You'll know when the time comes. Kai Wying didn't elaborate. All of them huffed and snorted, seeing that the fellow was acting all mysterious, but they didn't ask. They were celestial cultivators. None of them were stupid. They could guess that it probably had something to do with Su Ping. Back in the pet store, Su Ping picked Ascendant State pets that required professional training and entered the Archean divinity. After randomly appearing in the void, Su Ping hid himself in the original Tao world where he wouldn't be detected, then spread out his senses and soon found a city, hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. He entered the city and figured out its name. Based on a map he obtained from the Heaven Path Institute, he then looked for the most prosperous metropolis nearby. He then snuck into the metropolis and investigated. Very soon, in an intelligence agency found in that metropolis, Su Ping learned some news about the Rain clan, but there weren't any updates about the ancestral gods. Obviously, the news about the ancestral gods wasn't something to be publicly discussed. However, the Rain clan doesn't seem to be on full alert because of me. Based on the intelligence he bought, Su Ping learned that many deployed experts of the Rain clan had been contacted to return home. It was said that something huge had happened. It seemed to be a normal action, but he still sensed that something was unusual. He had already escaped from the Rain clan's grasp. They would have sent out people to search for him. Why were they recalled? Were they afraid he would return? They couldn't be defending against the Heaven Path Institute either. The ancestral god has already woken up. He probably won't go back to sleep so soon. After all, such a huge thing happened and he even returned defeated. If I were him, I'd be furious for a while. Su Ping's eyes glittered. He thought of an explanation. The Rain clan recalled its members probably because the clan's ancestral god was away at the moment. Chapter 1433, Gathering of Ancestral Gods 1. Their members were summoned back. Are they afraid that someone would attack their base while the ancestral god is away? Su Ping felt tempted. The idea of attacking their base did occur to him, but he soon dropped it. After all, the Rain clan would probably not be so stupid as to fight him outside of the barrier after the previous incident. The Rain Clan's barrier was personally set up by the ancestral god. Not even Su Ping could break it. I must return and meet the Chaos Perception Dragon to let him know about this. The ancestral god must be conspiring with other ancestral gods to hunt him down and retaliate against me. Su Ping was in no mood to stay anymore. He left the city and took to the sky. He tapped into the original Tao world and located the borderlands where the Chaos Perception Dragon lived. The borderlands were extremely vast, containing millions of mountains and billions of swamps. An endless amount of ferocious beasts lurked there, making it both a heaven and a hell for explorers. Su Ping went to the area's east side and moved straight ahead. Once he found the edge of the region, there were more ferocious beasts than there were in other places. One of the divine eyes, the sources of divine power, was there. Divine power flowed out from it endlessly. Su Ping had gained his godly constitution in one of the divine eyes. However, back then he was too weak to see through their mysteries. That particular divine eye was home to the Chaos Perception Dragon and a great cultivation land. Su Ping reached the divine eye soon after. Hardly had he arrived when he sensed the dangerous beasts lurking there. Enormous bones were piled up on the mountains, left exposed in the wilderness for countless years. Their owners used to be as strong as gods when they were alive. Our hero preferred not to waste time dealing with those ferocious beasts, even though he was no weaker than the god-emperor beasts, and he could handle anything except for the ancestral gods. However, in order to see the Chaos Perception Dragon sooner, Su Ping took out one of its scales, and the imbued aura was spread out. All the creatures would avoid such presence. Su Ping moved forward completely unhindered. He soon saw the Chaos Perception Dragon, which was still lying on the ground. In front of its mountainous body was the young Chaos Beast, currently enveloped in purple light. All the divine power was rushing into its body. There was also a stream of pure divine power from the divine eye in the distance, which looked like a golden river. As the energy polished and filled the young pet, its aura became denser. It was like an ocean where a tide was raging. The violent power in its body could be detected. Su Ping approached quietly, trying not to disturb the young Chaos Beast. He said to the Chaos Perception Dragon, "Senior, the ancestral god that fought you might come again with other ancestral gods." The grand creature gave Su Ping an indifferent gaze, his pupil looking like the sun hanging in the sky. "Where did you learn the news?" "I investigated and found out," Su Ping replied. The Chaos Perception Dragon withdrew its gaze and focused its attention on the young Chaos Beast again. "It doesn't matter. They came to trouble me once, but I knocked them away. I didn't kill them because they ran too fast, not because I could." After hearing its confident declaration, Su Ping smiled bitterly. "In any case, Senior, you should be careful. If they've already come once, they must be aware of how strong you are, and they would definitely come prepared this time." "So what if they're prepared? When you're strong enough, no matter how well prepared someone is, they're just mobsters if they don't exceed the limit of your strength." There was pride and disdain in the dragon's voice. Su Ping thought for a moment and realized that the answer made sense. However, an ancestral god could really suppress other ancestral gods easily. "There's nothing to worry about. Just go and cultivate. Don't waste your talent," said the Chaos Perception Dragon. Su Ping stayed silent. He looked at the young Chaos Beast and said goodbye. He summoned the Dark Dragon Hound and his other pets, and went looking for more God-Emperor beasts so they could spar with them. "Senior, can I go to the Divine Eye one more time?" asked Su Ping. "I want to see what's in the deepest part." "You'd better not go inside." What the Chaos Perception Dragon said next astonished Su Ping. "I allowed you to enter because you were too weak and you could only enter the shallow area. You're now strong enough to enter deeper regions. I fear that it'll cause unnecessary trouble. This divine eye is an artifact." "An artifact?" Su Ping felt dazed. "It's not some sort of natural phenomenon of this world." "Huh?" The Chaos Perception Dragon laughed, as if amused by Su Ping's naive remark. It said coldly, "This would have been a desolate world without those artifacts. All right. Don't think about it until you become an ancestral god. You're too weak to know the secret right now. Su Ping became even more curious as he heard this. He said, "You said that I would cause unnecessary trouble. Is it possible that the artifact is alive?" "That depends on your definition of life." The chaos perception dragon's words were rather sophisticated. "Plants are lives, stones are lives, the universe is a life, and some natural phenomena you see are also lives, such as wind, cloud, and lightning," said the chaos perception dragon indifferently. "If you define life in such a way, this artifact can be considered a living creature." Chapter 1434, Gathering of Ancestral Gods 2. Su Ping understood the concept. He nodded and dropped the subject. He then asked the dark dragon hound to look for nearby god emperors. They quickly found a divine beast that they had beaten up earlier, and the latter was so scared that it fled the moment it saw them. However, Su Ping flashed over and blocked its escape route. He said with a smile, "Play with my buddies for a while." "Which clan are you from? Don't push too far. If you're too outrageous, I'll eat anyone from your clan I come across," said the divine beast angrily. It had been terribly beaten up by Su Ping the previous time, so it wasn't really confident of making such a claim. "You'll die if you dare eat any of them." Su Ping smiled and then asked the dark dragon hound and the others to greet their old friend. His pets had fought the beast before. Although they didn't win in their last encounter, they had gained experience. They felt excited as they surrounded the beast again, hopping to subdue it. Time flew. Several days passed in the blink of an eye. One day, a rumbling noise came from the distance. A god-emperor beast that was fiercely fighting against the pet beasts felt so frightened that it turned tail and fled without caring about their incoming attacks. Su Ping, who had been observing the battle and considering his things, was surprised by the unexpected noise. He sensed the horrifying pressure of an ancestral god in the air. The Rain Clan. Su Ping narrowed his eyes. He didn't expect that the Rain Clan would decide to act that quickly. He looked at the source of the aura, which was a behemoth that looked like a walking titan. It stepped out of the void and stood in front of the chaos perception dragon lying on the ground. Su Ping changed his expression. His killing intent surged out and he quickly moved closer. He was still too weak to fight an ancestral god, but he had to help using his resurrection advantage. Right after his aggressive arrival, he was dumbfounded by what he saw. The intimidating beast suddenly crouched in front of the chaos perception dragon and concealed its aura obediently. Su Ping was stunned, hovering in midair and not knowing what to do. The chaos perception dragon glanced at Su Ping, who had just arrived, with a bit of gentleness in his eyes. Soon after, the creature regained its usual coldness and said, "Relax, this is just my buddy." Su Ping opened his mouth in shock. The chaos perception dragon has a buddy too, and it's an ancestral god beast. "Boss, who's this god?" The giant ape-like ancestral god raised its head curiously and grimaced. "Did he come here by accident? I happen to be hungry." Su Ping instantly sensed that a ferocious aura had locked onto him. "Senior, are the four ferocious beasts on close terms?" Su Ping asked the chaos perception dragon. The latter replied casually, "Make no mistake, he's not one of the four ferocious beasts. The four of us have taken a neutral stance. We can join forces if those gods gather and try to kill us. We won't hesitate to take action and stomp those gods even if they're only trying to get one of us. The four ferocious beasts is not a grand name. There should only be one king." Su Ping was stunned by this and could only smile bitterly. He was able to understand the relationship of the four ferocious beasts. The most surprising fact was that the newly arrived ancestral god beast was not even among them. It seemed that there were still huge gaps in power amongst them, and the chaos perception dragon was undoubtedly on the top tier. "Weird, since when are you so close to gods?" The ape-like ancestral god heard their conversation and felt curious, finally dropping the idea of eating the young man. "Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Why are you here?" said the dragon indifferently. The other behemoth slapped its head rather innocently. "I almost forgot. I just saw some ancestral gods passing through my territory. They seemed to be looking for something. I tailed them and eavesdropped, only to find that they were looking for you. So I came to report the matter to you." The Chaos Perception Dragon couldn't help but glance at Su Ping. "They must be the guys you talked about." Su Ping nodded and said, "Looks like it. How many ancestral gods are there in total?" The ferocious beast glanced at Su Ping, only to discover that the young god was not scared of him at all, which puzzled him. However, he detected the abundant aura of chaos on Su Ping, vaguely guessing that the young man could be somehow related to his boss. He then changed his attitude and said politely, "There are 6 ancestral gods altogether." "6, that should be right," said the Chaos Perception Dragon all of a sudden. Su Ping and the ferocious beast were dazed. The next moment, 6 figures appeared out of nowhere, coming from 6 directions. Their divine power surged out and surrounded the place, forming an independent world. Su Ping saw the illusions made by the universes behind their backs and the connections of their divine power. Their power had completely isolated the place. Is this the power ancestral gods can muster? They could cut the grand universe apart by joining hands. "You!" The ferocious beast changed his expression. Realization dawned upon him and anger followed. "You followed me here." "You're right. This demonic ape is indeed rather dumb," said a glowing ancestral god who wore a tall jade hat. "How else could we find the nest of this particular ferocious beast? It's actually living near the divine eye. This is a good environment. Truly bold," said an ancestral goddess who had an alluring body figure wreathed in purple light. Her voice was sweet and intoxicating. "However, we must now take care of this demonic ape. It's rather troublesome. Which of you wants to do the honors?" said an imposing person who held a spear. He looked like a tough young man. "Let me. Give me some time. I can kill it as long as it doesn't run off," said a chuckling fellow who was another ancestral god. "That's the brat who killed multiple god emperors of the Rain clan, right? I heard that he's a human being who rose to prominence a few years ago. I didn't expect him to be a descendant of one of the 4 ferocious beasts. Your god emperor's deaths are not surprising. I didn't expect that a hybrid could be such a genius. We should try with a ferocious beast sometime," said another ancestral god, chuckling with a folded fan. Su Ping saw that he looked similar to the guy from the Chechen clan he had killed. His face turned cold. "Since he's here, we'll just finish him off while we're at it." The Rain clan's ancestral god was cold and determined to kill Su Ping. Never did he imagine he would be insulted by a god king. "Let's make things clear." The charming ancestral goddess smiled. "He's a Tao child of the Heaven Path Institute. You should take care of the grudges between him and the Rain clan on your own. We just came here to hunt this evil beast. You don't need our help to deal with this brat, do you?" The Rain ancestor snorted. "Don't waste my time. I certainly don't need your help." "Wow, you're so mean. You weren't like this when you asked us to come," said the ancestral goddess after a chuckle. The Rain ancestor was about to say something when he suddenly changed his expression. Not just him, the other 5 ancestral gods took swift action. The nearby time and space exploded, and the mountainous Chaos Perception Dragon slowly stood up. The young chaos beast was sent back to Su Ping, still covered in purple light. It seemed to be going through some sort of transformation in that status. "Don't disturb it. Take care of it for me," said the Chaos Perception Dragon indifferently. "Senior, can you defeat 5 of them on your own? If you can't, let's just make a run for it." "Don't bother with me," said Su Ping immediately. He retrieved the young chaos beast so that the battle wouldn't affect its transformation. "Up until now, I've only eaten 4 ancestral gods. They all tasted good." The Chaos Perception Dragon licked its lips, and its amber eyes gradually turned dark red, like 2 blood moons floating in the sky. Chapter 1435, Madness 1. "You cunning gods, I won't spare you." The demonic ape also stood up, feeling embarrassed and ashamed. It had gone there to report, but its actions guided the enemies over, getting its boss in danger. "Don't say that we're cunning, it's just you being too simple-minded." The alluring ancestral goddess chuckled. "This is wisdom which is part of us. Although you might not have it, you can't prevent us from using it." Su Ping stepped up and said loudly, "Ancestral gods, you're the exalted ancestors of your respective clans. Is it fair to fight too with the six of you?" "Who do you think you are to question us?" said an ancestral god, who then urged the rain ancestor, "Finish him off already. I would have obliterated him if he wasn't the Tao child of the Heaven Path Institute. They didn't even check his bloodline. It is truly getting worse and worse." "Don't intervene. Just hide somewhere." The chaos perception dragon spoke to Su Ping via telepathy, then stood in front of him. Its power surged and covered the young man with a vortex-like barrier. "Senior, you tried it before. I can't be killed, not even by you. There's no need to protect me. It would only distract you," said Su Ping right after. The chaos perception dragon's eyes glittered. "They'll probably unfold some sort of ancient array to isolate you from the world. Are you sure the existence backing you can still shelter you?" "Yes," said Su Ping. The protective vortex was slowly dispelled. The chaos perception dragon didn't insist. He only said with a cold tone, "You'd better not die, or that kid will be mine." Su Ping felt warmth conveyed in those words. His heart felt hot as he smiled. "I will never let it come to harm. Senior, be careful." Boom! The six ancestral gods attacked fiercely. The void exploded all of a sudden. The aftershock of the violent explosion was spread out. Su Ping resisted the effect with all his might. He summoned the dark dragon hound and merged with it. A dog head appeared on his shoulder. Su Ping then said, "Let's experience the ancestral god's power." "Howl!" The dark dragon hound roared, full of fighting will. "Rot in hell!" That cold voice was suddenly heard inside Su Ping's consciousness, with a figure appearing out of nowhere and standing in front of Su Ping, feeling at home, as if he would have been there since the establishment of the universe. He was none other than the Rain Ancestor. His eyes were cold and aggressive. His face was hidden. Only his eyes were visible, full of coldness and killing intent. Next, Su Ping felt that his entire body was frozen, and all the great Tao in the world was blocked. There was a special force field surrounding him, which kept on shrinking. Is this the power of the undying universe? A grand burst of light emerged from Su Ping's eyes. He roared furiously, and his universe of chaos appeared behind his back. All the great Tao found in its layers were manifested, transforming into a sharp sword. The edge of that weapon had countless great Taos and terrifying traits. It could slice and tear anything to pieces. He waved his giant sword and brutally moved to slash the ancestral god. While entranced, Su Ping seemed to be back in the Heaven Path Institute's arena. The ancestral god's shadow that Mo Feng, prince of the Rain clan, had summoned almost made him collapse. Back then, the ancestral god's magnificent shadow had already imposed an unbearable pressure. He felt the great force on his back. A long time passed. That Rain clan prince was already dust by then. Now the challenge was to face the true body of the shadow he fought against in the past, the Rain clan ancestor in the flesh. Su Ping swung his sword fiercely. Useless. Coldness flashed in the Rain ancestor's eyes. The power displayed surprised him and invoked his killing intent. He could not allow such a genius to thrive. He suddenly understood why his clan's god emperors were executed in quick succession. The young man had a power exceeding that of normal god emperors. And all of this while being just a god king. A finger suddenly pointed at the young man, and the giant sword came to a sudden stop. It shook and hummed. Then its edge collapsed into countless pieces. All the condensed great Taos were instantly disintegrated and shattered. The Rain ancestor had a deeper understanding of the great Tao, allowing him to break Su Ping's great Tao with ease. "You'd be just as useless in my eyes if we were on the same level." Su Ping's eyes almost collapsed. He became even angrier as he glared back without an ounce of fear. The Rain ancestor's eyes turned cold. He suddenly waved a hand. Su Ping instantly felt how a universe was crushing him. There seemed to be a world in his enemy's fingers, which contained an unstoppable power. He mustered all of his strength to gather the broken sword again and attack. Concurrently, he used the contract Tao Heart and drew the world's power within a radius of 10,000 kilometers. A terrifying power fell into his control after the contract was established. Su Ping expanded the range from 10,000 kilometers to 50,000 kilometers, almost reaching his limits. "Go to hell," Su Ping roared, his body ablaze with golden flames. Roared. Another roar was heard coming from Su Ping's shoulder. It was the dark dragon hound's furious head. All its fur was standing at the moment, making it look like a ferocious wolf aiming to bite the enemy. The sword was broken, along with the wolf's sharp teeth. An arm suddenly approached and pierced Su Ping's body. Chapter 1436, Madness 2. Following that move, an infinite Tao power burst out of the arm, like the explosion of 1,000,000,000 nuclear bombs. Boom! Su Ping's body exploded, his consciousness melted in an instant. The gloomy Rain Emperor withdrew his arm. The power released by Su Ping earlier was enough to even astonish someone like him. It was no longer on the God Emperor's level. Although not quite at that level yet, it wasn't something that God Emperors could handle. He was just a God King. Is the ferocious beast's bloodline really so extraordinary? The Rain Ancestor's eyes glittered as he watched the battle in the distance. An idea suddenly occurred to him. The Chaos bloodline was the most ancient and terrifying bloodline in the world, which contained an endless number of bloodlines. Some of those ancestral gods carried Chaos bloodlines. Their strength was terrifying. While the Rain Ancestor's eyes glittered, all of a sudden, a dazzling sword aura illuminated his face, instantly making him narrow his eyes. It was a first for him to be shocked and appalled. After a boom, the Rain Ancestor tilted his head and the edge of the sword was shattered. However, it left a deep wound on his face when brushing past it. The wound cut deep into the bone, but it healed quickly. All the Tao power was cleaned. The Rain Ancestor turned around and looked back, his shock already gone. He stared fixedly at Su Ping, whom he had just killed. Being an ancestral god, he had clearly noticed that Su Ping was as dead as he could be after receiving his attack. There was no way he could resurrect. He had executed Su Ping, erasing him from all past events in time and space, but the young man was standing right there as fit as a fiddle. Illusion. Clone. The Rain Ancestor thought of many possibilities but discarded all of them. His senses couldn't be wrong. He had certainly killed him. "What are you looking at? Your opponent is me." Su Ping gave him a small grin. He had just merged with the dark dragon hound, with fighting will and provocation in his eyes. "I've never had an ancestral god as my sparring partner before. Practice with me and help me find my limits." "What are you exactly?" said the Rain Ancestor, however. He didn't attack right away and simply observed the human. "That's rude, especially coming from a top existence like you," said Su Ping with a smile. "If you truly don't know, you may consider me your long-lost father. I won't mind." The Rain Ancestor stayed calm, knowing it was just Su Ping trying to provoke him, preventing him from joining the beast hunt. However, he found the thought hilarious and ridiculous. He was also somewhat cautious. What made Su Ping so confident, giving him such a crazy drive? His uncanny survival just then. The Rain Ancestor stayed quiet. He rushed forward and condensed his universe on his arm, sweeping its power and destroying Su Ping's sword again. The arm pierced the latter's body before he could react. The attack affected time and space, crushing him again. This time, he used almost 50% of his power to make sure that Su Ping would be completely obliterated. All the great Tao in the world was erased by him at the same time. The Rain Ancestor felt relieved as he looked at the empty space. Maybe it was an illusion. Anyway, that was not the time to investigate just yet. He was about to join the others when another sword aura attacked him. "Where are you looking?" Su Ping's voice sounded. The Rain Ancestor's expression froze. He waved a hand and made the approaching sword aura collapse, just before he turned around and gazed at Su Ping. The latter looked back with a smile, then merged again with the dark dragon hound. "Show me the full strength of an ancestral god. Take out your undying universe. Let's see if you're truly immortal." The Rain Ancestor's eyes were trembling. 2 times in a row, that was not a hallucination. His second attack was overbearing, and yet Su Ping was still able to resurrect. He felt terrified, suspecting that there was something wrong with him. Or maybe I was trapped in some sort of illusion, created by the chaos perception dragon since the very beginning. He closed his eyes and examined carefully, confirming that he was sober at the moment. Bang! Su Ping swung his sword in rapid succession, only to be caught and destroyed by the Rain Ancestor with ease. However, he discovered that the Rain Ancestor needed to use some strength to deal with his attacks. It wasn't a simple dismissal. A radius of 50,000 kilometers is my limit. Su Ping sensed that all the cells in his body were filled up and on the verge of exploding. He took a deep breath, trying to melt the power with Dao skills. Very soon, his sword technique changed. He was at times stronger and then weaker, now sharper and then more condensed. Not hallucinating, the Rain Ancestor opened his eyes. He was positive that his current status was real and his senses couldn't be fake. He even spread his senses to the universe around him, hoping to find if some sort of artifact had caused such misconception. However, he had yet to detect an anomaly. He couldn't help but look at Su Ping while expressing uncertainty. If this is the real world, why could Su Ping resurrect after I kill him? If this isn't the real world, where am I then? The more he thought about it, the colder he became. If it wasn't an illusion, then why did the ancestral gods that came with him not help him escape from such a status? Could it be that all of us were caught in this illusion from the start? The Rain Ancestor thought of many things. The more he thought, the more terrified he was. He suddenly roared and punched at Su Ping. The void collapsed and his real universe was exposed. The punch contained his full strength to brutally smash the human. There was no way that Su Ping could resist. His universe was instantly pierced and his body exploded right after. But the next moment, Su Ping resurrected again. This is impossible, the Rain Ancestor roared, but there was fear in his voice. He punched consecutively and slew Su Ping again and again. Dozens of times in a row, Su Ping died the moment he was revived. He couldn't even sense his surroundings. Desperation grew with every time he killed the boy. That phenomenon was beyond his understanding. His head was ready to burst at that point. The stronger a person was, the more firmly they would believe in themselves. Once their understanding was disrupted, such a blast could be terrifying. If you're not real, then where are you exactly? The Rain Ancestor roared with bloodshot eyes. Instead of attacking the young man again, he changed the target to bombard the void itself. Soon, the void nearby fell apart and the world of gods was also torn. During those crazy attacks, the spot where Su Ping was remained intact. Su Ping stared at the scene, wondering if the godly ancestor had gone mad. Could an ancestral god go crazy too? Su Ping found it hard to believe. In the distance, a furious roar burst out. Rain Ancestor, what the hell are you doing? His random punches had almost hit one of his fellow ancestral gods. The same expert roared with shock and fury. We asked you to finish off that brat. What are you doing? That brat is still alive. Is this a trap you set up to deal with us? Rain Ancestor, are you conspiring with this ferocious beast? The other 3 ancestral gods were also furious and began to question the Rain Ancestor's motives. It should have been easy to execute the brat, but he was taking too long and he almost hurt them. The Rain Ancestor. This is all fake, all fake. The Rain Ancestor roared furiously and charged at the chaos perception dragon. You're the source of everything. The god's mad charge left the other 4 ancestral gods in shock. Humph! The chaos perception dragon snorted and fought back. Su Ping approached from a distance and roared, I'm your opponent. Where are you running? The Rain Ancestor released his universe in a hideous manner to smash it against the chaos perception dragon, only to be blocked by the creature's claw. The god's universe was even left with a crack. The pain is real, the madness receded. The fracture of his universe allowed him to experience real pain, but his frenzied state returned when he saw Su Ping moving closer. Chapter 1437, Tao Ancestor 1. Rain Ancestor, what are you doing? The other four gods were shocked and angry to see the Rain Ancestor's look. Although his attacks were aimed at the ferocious beast, it actually disrupted their pace in the battle. They also realized that the man didn't seem to be in his right mind. Go finish off the brat already. You're not needed here. What's taking you so long? Roared an ancestral god. The others were also anxious and wanted to lend a hand to deal with Su Ping on his behalf, all to not have that annoying little flying around. However, they didn't want to get involved with the Heaven Path Institute. The grudge with the Rain clan had taken root. If they recklessly killed their Tao child, the Institute's three ancestral gods could later look for an explanation. I can't kill him. The Rain clan looked at him gloomily. Can any of you kill him for me? The Rain clan will take the blame if the Heaven Path Institute wants to avenge him. Are you kidding? The man's request left all the gods in shock. An ancestral god had just said that he couldn't kill a god king. No matter what a genius he is, can he really face an ancestral god with his cultivation? Rain Ancestor, do you realize what you're saying? Roared an ancestral god who had scales all over his body, making him look like a dragon king. The Rain Ancestor was rather frustrated too. He wanted to find out if others could kill Su Ping. Did something really happen to me? Cut the crap. Which of you can do this for me? I will thank you properly when we're done, and I won't let the Heaven Path Institute come to you for trouble. The Rain Ancestor gnashed his teeth. Roar! The Chaos Perception Dragon's roar was suddenly heard. It dragged them all into its universe of chaos. Demonic sounds surged from all directions. All the ancestral gods felt awful, as if in a drunken state. Hilarious! While resisting the beast's attack, the ancestral gods were angered because of their fellow gods' request. This is a problem between you and the Heaven Path Institute. Are you scared of them? If so, we'll head back right now, said the charming ancestral goddess, not as relaxed as before. Rain Ancestor, you're the only one who can take care of this problem. If you're truly scared, just tell us. Don't waste our time, said another ancestral god. The Rain Clan Ancestor bellowed. I said it before, the Rain Clan is utterly incompatible with the Heaven Path Institute. If they want to avenge the Tao child, they have to first deal with the Rain Clan. I will take the blame if any of you kills him for me. You can't kill a Tao child. Who believe that? Said an ancestral god, disdain in his eyes. The Rain Ancestor felt frustrated. He couldn't describe Su Ping's weirdness. It was too unbelievable. Exactly at this moment, a tall ancestral god who was glowing like the sun said coldly, "Let me do it. Rain Ancestor, don't forget your promise. This brat killed a god emperor of the Chenchin clan. My actions would be seen as outrageous. However, you must take the blame if I kill him." No problem, said the Rain Ancestor, feeling greatly relieved. The situation was truly uncomfortable. Su Ping was the Rain clan's enemy, and yet he had to ask someone else to do the killing. He just couldn't kill him on his own. Furthermore, he even thought that surrounding and killing the Chaos Perception Dragon was easier than killing Su Ping. How could this brat be so capable? Take over my spot, said the Chenchin clan's ancestral god. He then activated his small universe and knocked a hole under someone else's cover, escaping from the Chaos Perception Dragon's universe. The great dragon roared and wanted to give chase, only to be blocked by the other four gods. Rain Ancestor, don't mess with us. I'll immediately take my leave if I see that you're slacking, said an ancestral god with a cold tone. The latter was angry, but he would not dare to talk back at the moment. After all, the others had the same mindset. The temporary truce would truly fall out if he counterattacked. He had paid a great price to ask for their help. He had to kill the Chaos Perception Dragon, or the Rain clan would never be at peace. I'll lead the charge. The Rain Ancestor didn't say anything else, simply speaking with actions. While their battle was resumed outside of the Chaos Perception Dragon's universe, the Chenchin clan's ancestral god arrived, glowing like the sun. His magnificent aura was spread out and he soon caught sight of Su Ping, who was hovering in the void. Rot in hell. Without further ado, he simply raised his head and attacked as if the human were an ant. The god thought that their difference in power was so vast that he didn't see talking as necessary. Once he sensed the Tao power sweeping over, Su Ping solemnly contracted the power within a radius of 50,000 kilometers and condensed it on his arm as a giant sword. Bang! The sword aura collided with the Tao power. The world instantly started shaking. The ancestral god, who was ready to return to the battlefield, was dazed, not expecting his attack to fail in erasing the boy. Such an ant had unleashed a dazzling power, one that no god emperors were able to control. Is he truly a god king? Is this the reason why the Rain clan ancestor failed to kill you? He's so dumb. The Chechen expert could not help but despise the Rain clan ancestor. He had previously seen the man as a strong opponent, but reality appeared to be different. Chapter 1438, Tao Ancestor 2. The power unleashed by Su Ping was indeed strong, but he was definitely not an ancestral god. Go to hell. A golden light slashed down as the Chenchen's ancestral god released a Tao skill, which passed through Su Ping and cut his body to pieces. The senior expert waved his hand casually, burning Su Ping's remains into ashes. You were truly a rare genius. What a shame, mumbled the ancestral god. Even though they were enemies, he had to admit the brat had an amazing talent. Was it due to the ferocious beast's bloodline mutation? He suddenly had an idea, but he kept it for another time. He was going to leave for the battlefield, but then he froze all of a sudden. A crack appeared ahead of him. Su Ping slowly came out and his aura gradually reached the peak. That guy failed, so you came. You don't seem to be any better, said Su Ping provocatively after resurrecting. He feared that the guy would join the others to attack the Chaos Perception Dragon. The only thing he could do was help it stall an ancestral god. You! The Chechen clan's ancestor gazed at him as if he were looking at a ghost. Goosebumps ran all over his body. It quickly dawned on him why the Rain ancestor said he couldn't kill the boy. He had killed the target, but the target had uncannily resurrected. What is going on? What are you? Said the man, staring at Su Ping with fear in his eyes. He couldn't understand how he was able to resurrect. He was an ancestral god, an expert who mastered the greatest power in the world, being almost omnipotent and omniscient. Finding something he couldn't understand gave him a real shock. Su Ping wasn't even interested in replying to the same question. He didn't mind ridiculing the Rain ancestor, but he wasn't the least interested in talking with that strange ancestral god. The heavens may arrive in this world any moment now. You are ancestral gods. Aren't you aware of their existence? Asked Su Ping. The expert's body shook. Are you one of the heavens? He soon disapproved of the thought. No, I've seen the heavens. You're not one of them. You've seen the heavens? Su Ping was rather astonished by the answer. Where? The weakest forms of the heavenly Tao. What's it to you? Who are you exactly? Demanded the ancestral god of the Chechen clan. Su Ping suddenly grew furious. Cut the crap. Where did you see the heavens? If you're aware of their presence, you should know that they may arrive with all their forces at any moment and destroy the world of gods. And yet, you choose to fight amongst yourselves. The ancestral god was stunned for a moment, seeing the young human's angry look. Then he sneered and said, We're here to eliminate the ferocious beast and save billions of lives. You think we're fighting each other? If the heavens arrive, all the lives in this universe will be terminated. The Chaos Perception Dragon can also fight alongside you to resist the heavens. Is this not a civil war? Roared Su Ping. I've seen the heavens. They're not as strong as you claim. I wonder where you heard the rumor. Did the guys in the Heaven Path Institute tell you? If they're so terrifying, the ancestral gods of the Heaven Path Institute should have called us to discuss the matter, said the god disdainfully. You've only seen their weakest members. Su Ping was gloomy. Even if those ancestral gods were enemies, there were still people in that world who had tried their best to protect him, both humans and the Heaven Path Institute. He knew that he would need their strength if the heavens did arrive. The stronger heavens are even more terrifying than you. Do you think you're already at the apex of all cultivation? Said Su Ping, holding back his fury. The ancestral god raised his eyebrows and gazed at Su Ping. Brat, you seem to know a lot of stuff. You're questioning our capabilities. Yes, we haven't reached the legendary Tao ancestor level, but are the heavens truly that terrifying? Are their strongest members on par with Tao ancestors? Maybe not even Tao ancestors can hold them back, said Su Ping. The Golden Crow ancestor could very well be a Tao ancestor. However, it was still avoiding the heavens. It wasn't hard to imagine how terrifying the heavens were. Ha, the Chechen clan's ancestral god smiled. The Tao ancestor level is the origin of everything and the final destination of all cultivation. They're immortal and know everything in the world. And yet, you say they don't stand a chance against the heavens. You don't know what you're talking about. He launched another attack. A shadow rushed toward Su Ping like a whip. The latter instantly mustered all his strength and slashed furiously. The sword aura was shattered, and Su Ping's body was forced back. Rot in hell. The Chechen clan's ancestral god was gloomy. His attack of ancestral god grade was blocked by a mere god king. He used 70% of his strength in an attempt to completely squish the boy and see if he could resurrect. Boom, Su Ping couldn't resist. His body was obliterated. However, he quickly came back to life. Seeing how dazed the god was Chechen, he said, "You can't understand why I can resurrect, just like you don't know how terrifying the heavens are. There are many things in the world that you don't know. Don't think that you're almighty just because you're ancestral gods. You're just frogs at the bottom of a well." Impudent, the ancestral god roared, but he was truly shocked and furious. Every word uttered by Su Ping had cut deep into his heart like a sharp edge. Indeed, he had focused all his attention, but he was still unable to tell how the human could resurrect. It was as if he were created by the great Tao out of nothing. But what kind of power was involved? Is it a Tao ancestor, an existence that all ancestral gods look up to? Ancestor would. He soon shook his head. A Tao ancestor would have the power to suppress them all with a mere thought if he were truly on Su Ping's side. Why bother let Su Ping waste time talking? However, he truly couldn't understand that strange resurrection. Is it some forbidden skill of a certain clan? Or maybe the bloodline ability of this ferocious beast? The eyes of the ancestral god glittered, feeling that Su Ping was carrying a lot of secrets. I suggest you go back and get ready for the arrival of the heavens. It may happen 100,000 or more years later, or it may happen tomorrow. This war concerns all the living creatures in this world. You must prepare, even 1,000,000 years in advance, said Su Ping. "Ha, you're just an alarmist," said the ancestral god with a cold smile. "Although I don't know how you resurrect, it's fine. We'll study you after we take care of that ferocious beast." Su Ping clenched his fist, overwrought with fury. He didn't expect that those ancestral gods would be no different from the celestials he interacted with in his universe. They never changed, only doing so until a disaster truly happened. Whoosh! The Chechen clan's ancestral god ran towards the Chaos Perception Dragon's universe, ready to join the other gods. Trying to kill Su Ping was just a waste of time. The longer he stayed, the more likely something would happen on the other side. They had prepared a 5-people array, based on their estimates in regards to the Chaos Perception Dragon's combat ability. The array's full power couldn't be fully unleashed when he was absent. He had to join them. Noticing how the god was running away, Su Ping quickly said to the Dragon Elder via telepathy, "Senior, take me to your universe. I will fight by your side." "That's unnecessary," was the dragon's cold response. "Senior, no need to worry about my safety. They can't do anything to me," said Su Ping in a hurry. After a moment of silence, a vortex appeared, and he quickly entered. Beyond the vortex was the dragon's universe. A massive battle was taking place. "He actually allowed me to join the battle, which means that it's difficult to deal with those 5 experts," thought Su Ping. The thought left him with a heavy heart. On the other hand, the Chechen clan's ancestral god returned, significantly reducing everybody's pressure. The rain ancestor quickly asked, "How did it go? Did you kill him?" Chapter 1439, Merging of All Pets 1. Everybody else looked at the rain ancestor weirdly, wondering why he asked such a stupid question. Could there be another result when an ancestral god fought with a god king? But the Chenchin ancestor's answer baffled them. "No, it's indeed impossible to kill him. I don't know why. That's not important, though. We can figure it out after we finish off this ferocious beast. Maybe we'll find secrets that we would all be interested in." "He can't be killed," said the astonished ancestral goddess. They had thought of other possibilities when the rain ancestor spoke about the matter, but the situation seemed rather uncanny after two of them agreed on the fact. "Interesting. I'd like to find out after we deal with this beast," said another ancestral god. The Chenchin clan's ancestral god said, "We'll talk about it later. Let's finish this beast as quickly as possible. We may get in trouble if the other three ferocious beasts notice this." "They don't help each other," said the rain ancestor, but he was still moving faster. The array was back in full force with the arrival of the Chenchin ancestor. The five-people array turned into a domineering chaos beast that roamed the land in the age of chaos. Their universes resonated, and the chaos beast unleashed a terrifying aura, somehow suppressing the chaos perception dragon. "Senior." Exactly at that moment, Su Ping rushed forward and looked at the two giant beasts fighting fiercely. He slightly changed his expression. The chaos perception dragon had clearly lost the advantage. "Do all gods love to fight unfairly?" Su Ping charged and roared without caring about his own safety. "He truly is alive." The rain ancestor narrowed his eyes upon noticing his enemy. The other three ancestral gods also showed different expressions. Two ancestral gods had failed in killing one Tao child from the Heaven Path Institute. It was a mystery to them. Bang! The five ancestral gods continued attacking with the array, ignoring Su Ping's taunting. Su Ping realized that he couldn't provoke them with mere words. After all, they were all old monsters who had cultivated for countless years and could easily see through the trick. He took a deep breath, then summoned the dark dragon hound, the inferno dragon, the lightning rat, and his other pets. "I've never tried it before, but I think it's possible. I hope that you'll resonate with me," Su Ping said to all his pets. The pets noticed Su Ping's solemn demeanor and dropped their naughty attitude. The two terrifying auras before them made their hearts tremble. "Boss, what do you want? Just tell me," said the dark dragon hound, sticking out its tongue. The inferno dragon said, "Even if our opponents are ancestral gods, we will go all out and never look back. No matter the opponent, I will beat them and become stronger." There was purple light in the lightning rat's eyes and electricity on its sharp claws. "All right." Su Ping felt proud, seeing their dauntless attitude. Other pets would have been shivering in fear, cowering in the presence of such powerful foes. They were indeed able to resurrect, but that wouldn't shake off their fear. Just like people who were afraid of snakes, even if they were told that a snake was non-poisonous and unable to kill them, it could still scare them out of their wits. "I will merge with all of you at the same time," Su Ping revealed his plan. All the pets were shocked. They looked at Su Ping. The dark dragon hound couldn't help but ask, "Boss, can your body bear it?" He replied, "I'll give it a try. I believe it's doable if our minds resonate." None of his pets said anything. There were no other questions. Having fought by Su Ping's side for so long, they had already awakened their wisdom. They understood the relationship between a battle pet warrior and his pets, knowing that fusions were only possible with one pet at a time. There were special techniques that could allow the merger with two pets at the same time, just like Song Yuan did, Su Ping's senior brother. However, that would weaken one's own power. There were both gains and losses. "By the power of contract, let's merge." Su Ping took a deep breath. He was going to meld all of them into his body with the power of his contract Tao heart, just like he did when he controlled the world of God's power. It would be impossible for others. However, Su Ping felt that he could try with his Tao heart. Instantly, a myriad of lights flashed. The dark dragon hound, the inferno dragon, the lightning rat, the vast sky thunderous dragon, and the purple python flew into Su Ping's body as energy beams. Those beams contained their bodies, power, and strength. Bound by the power of contract, they transformed into a special kind of energy that melded with his body. Su Ping was instantly able to feel his pets, thoughts, and auras. The feeling was slightly different from what he usually perceived with the pet contract. It was closer and more intimate. Su Ping could almost hear their different heartbeats and sense their different aromas. Entranced, Su Ping felt that he had transformed into a giant and that his pets were playing inside his arms. Master, boss, I think we did it. Intimate and excited voices resounded. Su Ping opened his eyes, only to discover that he had become hundreds of meters tall. Although still having a human body, there were bloody scales all over his body and purple scales concentrated on his back. He had also grown a tail. Chapter 1440, Merging of All Pets 2. There were dragon horns on his forehead. The dark dragon hound's wolf head was attached to his shoulder. On his back were the wings of the vast sky thunderous dragon. The different features of his pets had grown on his body, fusing with him. That indescribable, magnificent power filled Su Ping's body and made him shiver. He felt as if he could tear apart the world with one hand and control that universe. We did it. Su Ping was rather surprised and excited. He was also touched in a way. It was their very first attempt and he didn't even go into the details. And yet, they succeeded. At first he thought he would need a few more attempts to achieve it. Even if an accident happened and his body exploded, he had to make it work. That was the only chance for him to join the battle. However, it worked with his first attempt. The process was really fast and smooth. Echo of minds. Su Ping could feel the minds of his pets. All their thoughts were in his heart. None of it could be concealed. They had completely given themselves to him. It was an unreserved trust. Thank you, Su Ping said to himself in silence. The pets felt Su Ping's thoughts. The dark dragon hound grinned and said, "Boss, what are you talking about? We always belong together." That's right. The inferno dragon's voice rumbled like thunder. Su Ping smiled. No other words were uttered as they would fall short when trying to describe what he felt. He clenched his fists and sensed the power flowing inside his body. A moment later, he said, "We're ready to go. Let's go. Our enemy is outnumbered, they should fear. US. So what if they're ancestral gods? Boss will surely surpass them when he becomes an ancestral god." All the pets were excited and ready to fight, as a result of their minds echoing. Their feelings influenced each other. Their fighting will was soaring. Su Ping stepped up, sweeping his violent aura. He used the contract to connect to the surrounding universe, only to discover that it contained the chaos perception dragon's will. Besides, the power of that universe was constantly being sent by the chaos perception dragon into the battle. If he drew from it, he would only be competing with his ally over that power. Su Ping didn't compete with the dragon senior, as it would only weaken the latter. He extended his power beyond that universe. He discovered that he could break out of the chaos perception dragon's universe on his own while in that state. That could also be because all the dragon's power was concentrated on the battle, and it didn't try to stop him. Su Ping instantly contracted the outer world when his senses stretched beyond the dragon's universe. The power of the world surged into his body non-stop through the contract. 30,000 kilometers, 50,000 kilometers. Su Ping approached his previous limit in the blink of an eye. However, he then felt that it was as easy as lifting an arm. He was far from reaching his limits. I can control more now. Su Ping's eyes were glittering. He extended his power influence, soon absorbing the power within a 100,000-kilometer radius. A furious fire was burning inside Su Ping's body. He didn't stop. 120,000 kilometers, 150,000 kilometers, 200,000 kilometers. He didn't hit the limit until he reached all the way to a 230,000-kilometer range. By then, his body was already like a golden ocean, emitting an unparalleled divine power. The power was emitting such massive waves that both parties on the battlefield noticed it and turned to look at him. "What's that brat doing?" The 5 ancestral gods were rather astonished. Su Ping's aura was definitely not something that a god king could have. It even exceeded that of the god emperors they knew. The chaos perception dragons could sense it better. After all, everything was happening in the creature's universe. Astonishment surfaced in his eyes. For the first time, he stared at that junior solemnly. He carried the same ancient bloodline of the Chaos clan, but his talent was beyond extraordinary. He suddenly felt at ease, with the thought of letting the boy care for the young Chaos beast. Boom! The void was trembling, and Su Ping walked to the battlefield in flames. In the space battlefield where 2 giant beasts were fighting, Su Ping approached like an ancient giant. The auras from his movement caused ripples in the universe. "Come on!" Su Ping fiercely drew his sword and slashed at the enemy. The sword aura swept across half of the universe and illuminated the silent darkness, hitting the behemoth made by the godly array powered by the 5 ancestral gods. The power was so great that all 5 of them shivered. "What?" They were appalled. All of them looked at the young man as if he were a ghost. "A mere god king is making us shake. That's a power close to the ancestral god level." "It's effective." Su Ping was delighted by the result. This meant that he had the qualifications to intervene. Even if he couldn't hurt them, he could at least distract them. If his attacks could be directly ignored, that would only mean that he would end up crushed like an ant, even if he attacked using his full strength. Roar! Noticing their weakness, the Chaos Perception Dragon quickly pushed forward with its only horn, wounding the 5-god behemoth. Many Tao patterns were destroyed. The 5 ancestral gods were shaking in their boots. They quickly fixed the array. "Damn it, let's get this over with so that this brat doesn't ruin our business," said one of the ancestral gods. He was shocked and furious, feeling that the strange god king could be an unknown factor. "Reverberation of the universe. Stop holding back and show your true skills," said the charming ancestral goddess. None of them hesitated as they quickly summoned their power. 5 undying universes appeared and connected to form a giant blade, which slashed at the Chaos Perception Dragon. "I'll block it," Su Ping roared. He realized how terrifying the strike was. The Chaos Perception Dragon could survive it, but the damage would be considerable. He, on the other hand, was different. He could resurrect. Su Ping stomped and charged forth like a fiery meteor, taking the attack on behalf of the dragon. Su Ping instantly felt that an insurmountable power had bashed him, just like being hit by a train. His body fell like a kite without a string. All his bones and power fell apart. All kinds of traits and power disrupted his body and eliminated his consciousness. Many kinds of illusions surfaced before his death. He lingered for decades in some illusions, while briefly staying in some others. However, it was but an instant in reality. The aftershock of the attack was swept out. The Chaos Perception Dragon roared and made it collapse. After Su Ping's body weakened the blow, the remaining power was no longer a threat. He was prepared to get hurt with that strike, not expecting Su Ping to step in and block it for him. Roar! The dragon's eyes were bloodshot. A brutality hidden for countless years surged out. He gave a deafening roar as he charged at the 5 ancestral gods. "Damn it!" The gods looked awful and angry. Su Ping's daring move was not in their calculations. They condensed their strength once again to face the dragon rushing toward them. Soon, they were clashing fiercely, causing dents and tremors everywhere in the universe. While the 2 parties clashed, Su Ping's body was condensed in the void. He resurrected yet again. Right after coming back to life, he saw the ongoing fight and immediately summoned his pets to fuse with them again. The second attempt was just as successful. There were no accidents. Su Ping contracted the power of the outer world again, and soon became a giant of flames like before. He was enveloped in overflowing power that could no longer be contained in his body. "Damn it! He truly doesn't die." The 5 ancestral gods noticed the powerful aura in the distance. The 3 ancestral gods who saw this happen for the first time finally lost their cool. Both the Rain ancestor and the Chenchin clan's ancestral god looked awful. The thing they dreaded most had indeed happened. If Su Ping could keep resurrecting with such a terrifying power, he would definitely be a huge distraction in their battle. Chapter 1441, Forced Retreat 1. Bang! The joint attack of the 5 ancestral gods was again blocked by Su Ping again with his body and strength. Torn by countless great Daos, Su Ping exploded after enduring for less than half a second. But soon after, his body was reconstituted again. He was very excited, as battling ancestral gods was actually useful. It would be unimaginable for other god kings. Damn it! Bastard, this will never be over. We must seal him first. The 5 ancestral gods were so furious they almost vomited blood. Su Ping was like the chaos perception dragon's shield. Most importantly, the shield could fix itself and never be destroyed. The dragon only needed to attack, which imposed a huge pressure on them. Roar! The dragon's attack became fiercer, after realizing that Su Ping truly wouldn't die. The 5 ancestral gods were trying to seal the human, but their power was dispelled by the dragon before it did any harm. It was really difficult to imprison Su Ping while that beast was there. Furthermore, the young man wasn't weak. The power he could harness was enough to influence them somewhat. This isn't going to work out. The 5 gods were having a headache as they carried on with the fierce battle. Their attacks had proven to be useless dozens of times because of the human's resistance. Even though they did kill him a dozen times over, the chaos perception dragon counterattacked paid in kind just as often. They were finding it difficult to defend themselves. Is there really something that can resurrect infinitely? Is he a Dao ancestor? No way, a Dao ancestor wouldn't trick us like this. Damn it, what exactly is he? The 5 ancestral gods were exasperated, but there was nothing they could do. Unification of the Great Dao. Su Ping resurrected again and again. The consecutive bombardments helped him in sensing the elements behind the power that tore his body apart. The power belonged to the 5 gods, but it was highly unified. Such unification also contained the features of the infinite Great Dao. It seemed that each of those independent forces was part of a whole. However, they were extremely complicated and unpredictable as they worked together. Su Ping had a great epiphany during his movement between life and death. Is this the Great Dao? Everything is the same at the end of the Great Dao. That kind of experience couldn't be copied by anyone. After all, they would be completely annihilated after the first experience. Boom! Su Ping stepped up again after facing the 5 ancestral gods' attack. All his power was easily torn apart soon after. An utterly violent power invaded his body, destroying all his cells and astral oceans. Su Ping sensed that the violent Great Dao was tearing his body to pieces. He tried stopping it, but it was like an infant compared to a muscular man. He was crushed. Maybe if I can sign a contract. The idea occurred to him, but his consciousness was invaded and destroyed before he could do anything. The next moment, Su Ping woke up again. His previous idea remained. Su Ping looked at the 5 gods with glittering eyes. They were definitely qualified as sparring partners. Or rather, he was qualified to practice with the ancestral gods. All in all, he was benefiting immensely as he learned from that battle. It would have been pointless to practice with them in the past, as there would be no chance to learn a thing, being killed instantly. It was different now. Su Ping made a decision in his heart. I should give it a try later. The 5 gods felt a strong headache as they looked at Su Ping. Have you noticed that he's lasting longer each time? Said an ancestral god in a gloomy tone. Compared to before, he's endured 1 second longer when we strike. The charming ancestral goddess gnashed her teeth. He seems to be using us to grow at a crazy rate. They all looked awful and couldn't be more shocked. Su Ping was actually growing at an astonishing speed as they fought. His vitality aura is less than 1,000 years old, and yet he has such terrifying strength? Is his growth being potentialized by his quick brushes between life and death? Asked the Chenchin clan's ancestral god. Very likely. This guy is too strange. My guess is that there's a terrifying existence backing him and is using us as mere targets for his training, said one of the shocked gods with an awful expression. If that were the case, his backer could only be one kind of existence, the legendary Tao ancestor. The end of cultivation, and the original point of all power. This can't go on. We should have brought one more ancestral god had we known this. The charming ancestral goddess' pretty face was utterly solemn. She was thinking of retreating. The other ancestral god silently exchanged looks. The rain ancestor's face was darker than ever. He had paid a great price to invite them over. Such a turn of events was completely out of all expectations. What angered him to no end is that they might not win even if he asked them to keep on fighting. If they couldn't deal with Su Ping, they would never inflict real damage to the Chaos Perception Dragon. The only way for them to kill the ancient beast and Su Ping was if they were truly united and determined to accomplish the task, even at the cost of laying their own lives. However, they were ancestral gods, with huge clans and descendants to protect. Who among them would truly risk their lives? Chapter 1442, Forced Retreat 2. Rain Ancestor, this is completely unexpected. You have to blame yourself for not having enough intel. We are not to blame, said an ancestral god. The Rain Ancestor gnashed his teeth. Let's try one more time. I won't stop you if it fails and you want to go. Everyone exchanged looks in silence. They had indeed received plenty of rewards from the Rain Ancestor. It would be inappropriate to leave just like that. Let me control the array. I have an incomplete Tao technique that I'd like to try, said the Rain Ancestor. Okay. There was no objection. Control was handed over. The Rain Ancestor looked at Su Ping thoughtfully. Never before had he felt such hatred for a god king. After all, most god kings were just ants undeserving of his hate. He could erase them by lifting his hand. However, the young Su Ping couldn't be erased. Most people's fury came from their helplessness. They couldn't change what they wanted to change. The god's eyes turned dark as he gained control over the ancient array. There seemed to be vortices circulating inside them. He was ablaze with divine flames, and the undying universe surfaced behind his back. An ancient aura was attached to his universe. That aura was spread out, making the other four ancestral gods have a strong, ominous feeling. The Rain Ancestor roared, "Misfortune descend." Blue flames were burning on the chaos beast materialized by the ancient array. It carried some sort of terrifying aura of misfortune. A blue pillar of light was shot out as he roared. Su Ping instantly detected a terrifying and unusual aura. He rushed towards the Chaos Perception Dragon without hesitation. Roar! The Chaos Perception Dragon noticed something unusual too. Seeing that Su Ping was risking his own life to protect him, he roared and tried to push the young one away. However, Su Ping was too fast and had already struck the blue pillar of light. Su Ping instantly felt that all his power was declining and withering. Some sort of huge hand seemed to have stabbed into his body and quickly extracted his vitality. The power he had acquired through the contract, and the merging was removed. Bang! Su Ping's body melted and fell apart in the void. However, the blue pillar of light wasn't entirely blocked by Su Ping. It continued moving towards the Chaos Perception Dragon. The latter roared. A crimson moon appeared in front of its eyes and struck the blue pillar. Light was splashing. One of his eyes dashed out and struck the blue pillar again. There was a boom and the blue pillar exploded. The bloody moon was also corrupted by the blue light. The Chaos Perception Dragon roared in pain. It suddenly hurled the bloody moon to smash the 5 ancestral gods. The gods were forced to retreat because of the exploding eyeball. They were astonished as they saw how the beast only had an eye left. That power was beyond their imagination, and the dragon no longer dared to recall the eyeball. Seems to be a secret technique from the Age of Chaos, mumbled an ancestral god. The Rain Ancestor breathed heavily. while looking awful. The Chaos Perception Dragon had sacrificed one of his eyeballs to block the attack, which was weakened by Su Ping. During that moment, based on the changes in the young man's body, the dragon realized that the attack was unusual, so he didn't use his body to block it. Otherwise, the wound would have been graver. "Damn you, bastard!" The Rain Ancestor was frustrated and infuriated. He had never hated a god king like that. Back in the void, Su Ping's body was condensed yet again. Shock and suspicion were written all over his face. The attack just then was extremely weird, and he couldn't sense anything. He probably wouldn't feel any change, even if he experienced it dozens of times. Everything happened in a flash. He seemed to have regressed, and so did his senses. He was unable to feel the subtle changes when he was dying. "Can you perform another attack like the one just now?" someone asked the Rain Ancestor. "You should have used that ultimate skill sooner," said the charming ancestral goddess. The Rain Ancestor looked gloomy. It was an ultimate skill. Of course it couldn't be performed easily. Besides, the Chaos Perception Dragon had already found out. It would be useless even if they tried again. Everyone else was well aware of that. They only said it to imply that it was time to retreat, since they couldn't do it again. The Rain Ancestor looked thoughtfully at Su Ping, who resurrected in the distance. "Let's retreat." They could understand what the Rain Ancestor was feeling, but the situation was also clear. It was better to retreat sooner, or they wouldn't be able to bear another strange turn of events. Whoosh! The Rain Ancestor relinquished control over the ancient array, and another god quickly took over, to break the dragon's universe open and escape. He didn't make any threats or bold declarations. Retreat was the sole idea at the moment, since the result was inevitable and they couldn't kill the enemy. The weaker and more ignorant a person was, the more likely they would be hot-blooded and fight until they died, without realizing what was awaiting them. The five gods' retreat was awfully abrupt. The Chaos Perception Dragon noticed it before Su Ping even realized what was going on. The creature roared and ran out, dismissing his universe. After the universe was retrieved, Su Ping saw the outer world and how the Dragon Elder was charging in the distance. That was the direction the five ancestral gods took to make their escape. Su Ping rushed to catch up. He saw that the five gods rushed to another time and space, where the last ancestral god and the demonic ape were fighting fiercely. "Have you taken care of it?" The last ancestral god smiled when he saw them. "Retreat," said one of the gods in a low voice. The former was stunned, then felt his heart grow heavy. The situation astonished him, as they had been thorough when making arrangements. Killing those beasts shouldn't have been a problem. Why do we have to retreat? They didn't come here to help me finish off this demonic ape. It could only mean that the plan had failed, and the ferocious beast was still alive. Whoosh! The ancestral god stopped fighting and quickly left with the five other gods. He also sensed the other beast was chasing them. He was shocked. The Chaos Perception Dragon was indeed alive. Was the creature really that terrifying? Even five ancestral gods weren't enough to kill it. The dragon stopped after the six ancestral gods made their retreat. He didn't give chase to kill them, which was impossible. He was only there to defend his lackey, as they would try to kill the fellow as they made their getaway. Su Ping, who had finally arrived, saw that the Chaos Perception Dragon stopped, then realized what the other was thinking. He looked at the departing ancestral gods and was slightly regretful. He felt that he could tap into a higher power level if he could practice more with them. However, his gains were plenty, even though the battle had already ended. First of all, he tested the possibility of merging with all of his pets. Secondly, he experienced the ancestral gods, attacks, and vaguely saw a deeper route to the Great Tao. "Boss, are you okay?" The demonic ape looked at the six ancestral gods as they left. Then, the beast turned around and looked at the great dragon with admiration. "As expected of you, boss. Not even five ancestral gods could hurt you. I was thinking how I could finish off that guy and help you. He was so sordid. He never fought me head-on and he wasn't even hurt." He suddenly noticed Su Ping and exclaimed, This kid is still alive. The chaos perception dragon glanced at the fella. Even if you die, he won't. I would have probably been wounded without his help. The demonic ape was dumbfounded. The guy looked at Su Ping in a daze. He helped you. He thought that his senses were playing tricks. It would be remarkable if a god king didn't hold them back as the beasts fought such a high-level battle. How could this guy possibly help? Su Ping smiled and said to the giant dragon, "Senior, since this place has been exposed, we should probably transfer to somewhere else. That way they won't gather more ancestral gods and look for trouble again." The chaos perception dragon nodded. Of course. The creature had seen Su Ping's attempts to help, and thus willingly replied to Su Ping's proposal. He wouldn't have bothered in the past, as he hated others telling him what to do. "Unfortunately, it's impossible to take away this divine eye," said the dragon wistfully as he looked at the divine eye in the distance. He then glanced at Su Ping. "Since you're truly undying, I'll take you to experience the power in the depths of the divine eye before we go." Chapter 1443, Conception 1. "Thank you, sir." Su Ping looked forward to it. The chaos perception dragon wasted no time talking, and simply took Su Ping to see the divine eye, where golden power was flowing out like a golden river of sticky magma. The surging divine power in the river gradually dissipated and was spread in the entire world of gods. The great Tao in the world of gods took that divine power to all places. "The divine power is like blood," said Su Ping with mixed feelings. "The universe is a life form by itself," said the dragon. "It's just that most species' definitions of life are too narrow. Most define flowers, grass, and trees as non-living creatures. Some of the other species think that rocks, rivers, and clouds are alive. However, they are all living entities born from the great Tao. They are simply different beings. For example, lightning dies the moment it's born. Its whole life takes place in that brief moment. The wind gathers and disperses slowly. That's the life of the wind. It is exactly because of the difference between life forms that most species can hardly understand each other. However, if observed from a higher perspective, you'll realize that most things are alive. In the long history spanning billions of years, even some of the powerful species can only glow for a moment, just like lightning does. Some species live long lives, so they despise short-lived existences and don't consider them as being alive. However, even those powerful species are simply repeating the same moment until they die. Lightning, on the other hand, reveals the most brilliant side of its life during that one moment, even though it dies quickly. It doesn't need any extra longevity. Su Ping felt dazed. That was the first time that the chaos perception dragon had said so many things to him. The universe was a life. The difference in life. Su Ping suddenly thought of his Tao heart. Different lives tended to reject each other. The contract was actually a power able to connect different lives. It allowed them to listen to each other's hearts and experience each other's feelings. If the universe is a life, Su Ping instantly felt goosebumps all over his body. His contract Tao heart could control other lives, the great Tao, and even the world to borrow their power. Were they all alive? Since they were alive, could he make contracts with them? He suddenly remembered that the system said that everything could be trained. Su Ping didn't expect that the idea of everything entailed such a big scope. Could the great Tao and the universe be trained too? If they were both alive, they could be trained. Wait, the young chaos beast is exactly a creature born in the great Tao during the age of chaos. In simpler terms, it is a manifestation of the great Tao. So the great Tao truly is a life form and can be trained. The same goes for the universe. Su Ping narrowed his eyes, feeling his horizon broaden with a new realization. I can build up my universe by training. The undying universe. A lot of ideas occurred to him, vaguely finding the way to become an ancestral god. The system, which loved peeping into his heart, didn't reply to any of his thoughts, which further assured that his guess was right. The gods who claim to respect and love all lives only respect and love lives that they're biased for. The ones they are against aren't even defined as lives by them and are seen as dead. The hypocrisy, said the Chaos Perception Dragon. His contempt for gods was evident. Su Ping gave a slight nod. He had a deep understanding of the gods' arrogance, which was ingrained bone deep and couldn't be changed, just like every species had its own bad attributes. Let's go, I'll show you the real look of the divine eye, said the dragon. He then turned around and ordered the demonic ape, you stay here. All right, boss. The creature seemed to be extremely obedient at the moment. His boss was almost killed by the 6 ancestral gods that the guy unwittingly guided over, so he feared that his boss would eat him in a fit of fury. He only wanted to make up for what he did. The dragon shrank its body size and led Su Ping into the divine eye. The strange loss of gravity was felt, followed by the feeling of passing through a thin membrane. Su Ping was surrounded by abundant divine power. He wasn't too surprised, being his second visit. He simply examined the place and followed the dragon. The divine eye's surface was a boundless ocean of divine power. Cultivating there was more effective than cultivating in any of the holy lands in the world of gods. The rise of the 7 greatest clans was exactly because each controlled a divine eye. They had 10 times more elites than the other clans did. Su Ping reached a dark area after passing through the ocean of divine power. The place was extremely deep, and not much divine power could be sensed. He seemed to have entered some ruins. He couldn't even sense other times and spaces there. It was a simple, barren, and desolate region. Down below is the core of the divine eye and the real source of the artifact. Be careful, said the Chaos Perception Dragon. Su Ping's eyes narrowed. Their bodies kept sinking. Su Ping sensed the pressure building around him. There seemed to be something at the bottom of that passage. Chapter 1444, Conception 2. The darkness before Su Ping's eyes suddenly disappeared, and he saw an unforgettable scene. Down below was a world of chaos, with the chaos aura fluctuating everywhere. At the center of the chaos aura was an item that looked like a flower. There was a meatball at the center of the flower-like item, which had strange, slightly waving limbs. Su Ping could tell it was an unusual living creature, possibly born from chaos. That's the core of the divine eye, said the Chaos Perception Dragon in a low voice. It's a special chaos creature. The divine power you see is just the accumulation of impurities released when the thing was conceived. Dazed, Su Ping stared at the wiggling body and felt that his blood was curdling. The divine eye was a womb to conceive this thing. The gods consider themselves superior. Little do they know that they're mere accumulations of impurities. There was disdain and mockery in the beast's eyes, as if he also looked down on the gods, the feeling also bone deep. Su Ping didn't know what to say. That scene was just too shocking. He couldn't help but ask, Senior, are all the divine eyes in the world of gods conceiving those creatures? What will they become after they're born? I don't know. I've never seen any of them being born. This thing will probably never be born. Countless years have passed and this thing has never changed. Maybe this is what it looks like and it's already been born, said the dragon elder. Exactly at that moment, the chaos creature in the flower seemed to have noticed something. Dozens of cracks appeared on the flower's surface. They turned out to be eyes that were staring at Su Ping and the Chaos Perception Dragon. The next moment a strange and hoarse roar was heard, and the rays of chaos darted out of those eyeballs. The dragon was already prepared, quickly pulling Su Ping away and saying, It's angry. We're already old friends. Why is it so hostile? While speaking, he slapped the flower with its bloody claw, but the force pierced into the flower and was seemingly absorbed. Just as I thought, said the Chaos Perception Dragon. This thing is rooted in the world of chaos, and any attacks received would be transferred to this world. To some extent, it is invincible. That's why I warned you not to come here at first. Su Ping didn't expect such a monster to be conceived in the divine eye. He had mixed feelings, thinking that the heavens were tricky enough. Now he learned of another deep secret. Do the ancestral gods know what this is? The dragon gave a slight head shake. It's both an artifact and a living creature from the age of chaos. Perhaps it was left by some big shot from that era. Maybe it was a weapon of theirs, or a descendant even. All in all, this isn't something we can handle unless we can reach that legendary level. Su Ping was quite solemn, a sorcerer ancestor. Maybe he could ask the Golden Crow ancestor for more information. It was one of the sorcerer ancestors, one of the most powerful lives ever. It would certainly know something. The only way to destroy this thing is to destroy the entire world of gods, but that's impossible, said the dragon. Although our attacks can break the barrier of the world of gods, it's only part of it. The world can recover quickly. It would be pointless, as our destruction is not as fast as the world's recovery. It cannot be destroyed unless all the ancestral gods gather and attack in a crazy manner. These divine eyes are the power sources in the world of gods. The 7 greatest clans who control the 7 divine eyes must have studied them a lot, but I'm not interested and I don't know much. Su Ping asked curiously, why have no gods come to occupy this divine eye? Is it because of you? It's partly because of me, but mainly because of the local environment. The divine eye can't be relocated. If any clan wants to control this divine eye, the clan would have to be here, or the divine eye would be of little use to them. The dragon added, this is the desolate area at the border of the world that's home to ferocious beasts. Any clan that moves here will be destroyed before they can benefit from the divine eye. Su Ping could agree, as he remembered the god-emperor monsters found all over the place. The chaos perception dragon looked at the growling monster in the flower and said casually, let's go. This thing is getting angrier. He then led Su Ping out of the area and retreated. The latter could tell how the dragon was acting vigilant. It seemed that the thing was not only invincible in defense, but also terrifying when it came to offense. They quickly exited the divine eye. There are many more divine eyes in the borderlands like this one, still unclaimed. They're found in regions teeming with beasts, too many for the gods to handle, said the chaos perception dragon. The divine eyes occupied by the 7 greatest clans happen to be in great locations. There were a lot of competitions over those 7 divine eyes. The dragon seemed to be reminiscing as he spoke. Su Ping smiled. Senior, you seem to know a lot about the gods. Of course, said the other. One of the clans even asked me for help when they competed over the divine eye. They have yet to return the favor. I would have asked them for help if 2 more gods would have shown up today. The creature seemed to be smiling after seeing surprise on Su Ping's face. Don't think that we're die-hard enemies just because we're called the 4 ferocious beasts. With enough benefits, any 2 people can become allies and friends even. That's why the 4 of us have been able to live as long. Of course, you have to be strong enough too. Otherwise, your so-called friends will betray you in the blink of an eye. Yes, you're right, Senior. Su Ping felt he had learned something. One of the 7 greatest clans had actually teamed up with the ferocious beast once. Justice was indeed a mere excuse to fool stupid people. Let's go, time to move, said the dragon. He then glanced at the demonic ape and ordered, go back to where you're from. Boss, please forgive me, begged the demonic ape. The dragon snorted and said, get lost. Boss, have you forgiven me? Get lost. Thank you very much, boss. Thrilled, the demonic ape hopped and disappeared. Su Ping felt puzzled. How exactly did that creature conclude that he had been forgiven based on 2 exact same phrases? The chaos perception dragon didn't dawdle. He teleported with Su Ping in tow. Time and terrain changed. Su Ping followed the chaos perception dragon and crossed an infinitely long distance and then found themselves in a desolate area. The dragon stopped and looked around with satisfaction. I'll settle down in this place. You may find me here in the future. Right after he said that, a furious roar came from the distance. Then dark clouds surged in the sky and blocked the sun. When they moved closer, Su Ping saw it was a giant beast that looked like a combination of an eagle and a dragon. It had a snake tail that stretched tens of thousands of kilometers. Its claws were so sharp that they could easily tear off a mountain. Bastard, who dares to break into my territory, said an angry, high-pitched voice. But then the beast seemed to have clearly noticed it was the chaos perception dragon. It stopped abruptly and then flew away at an even higher speed. Su Ping could tell it was an ancestral god beast too. He had expected a fierce battle, but he didn't expect the creature to give in that quickly. Looks like there are a lot more ancestral god beasts in the world of gods aside from the 4 ferocious beasts, Su Ping thought. Humph, it ran fast enough. I do happen to be hungry. The chaos perception dragon snorted and lay down next to a mountain before he said to Su Ping, "Don't you like to practice? Go hunting and get me some food." Su Ping was rather lost for words as he saw the big guy's lazy look. He had previously acted cold and aloof, rarely talking to the former. But the battle changed things, as the fellow kept teaching him and telling him secrets of the world of gods. He was actually not as taciturn as he seemed. Chapter 1445, New Universe 1. Su Ping summoned the young chaos beast. After the chaos perception, dragon found the new home. The youngling was covered in a thick purple cocoon, sleeping like the dead. He did his best to avoid waking it up in advance. "Leave it with me. You can go hunting," said the chaos perception dragon in a lazy manner. Su Ping was okay with the idea. He left the little one there. "It will become a great supporter after it awakens the real power of its bloodline. I hope that you treat it nicely." The chaos perception dragon became solemn and said, "It hasn't been easy for the chaos bloodline to be passed down. We are both survivors from the time when the world was in turmoil and chaos declined." Su Ping stared at the dragon. "Did you witness the decline of the age of chaos? Was it because of the heavens?" "You know this too." The chaos perception dragon was slightly surprised as it glanced at Su Ping, then thought of something. "The mysterious existence backing you is at least as strong as a sorcerer ancestor. It must be one of the survivors too. It's fine for you to know this." "That's right, the decline of chaos started with the birth of the heavens." Su Ping was greatly alarmed. The heavens were indeed the cause of all disasters. The Golden Crow ancestor led its people to live in seclusion and hide from them. "Unfortunately, I was too little back then and I only survived because of luck," said the dragon. It glanced at Su Ping and continued, "Your backer surely knows the whole story. Please ask them why the heavens did it." Su Ping was stunned. It was the answer he had always wanted to find. However, that ferocious beast one that even the ancestral gods were scared of also sought the answer. It wasn't simple curiosity, but more like a humble plea. Su Ping fell silent. His instinct told him that the system knew everything. It was just that the latter wouldn't tell him the secret until he upgraded his store to level 9. He didn't try asking at the moment, knowing that the system would surely have a reason for the secrecy. Besides, the system had never hurt him. The system had been his longtime companion, and the one who had helped him the most. Without it, he would have been just an ant, eventually squashed under the hooves of giant beasts, like the unfortunate ones back on the blue planet when the big disaster happened. His home planet would have surely become just another beast-ridden place. "One day, I will make the heavens tell me why they're doing this." A strong light full of hatred glittered in Su Ping's eyes. The chaos perception dragon glanced at Su Ping, surprised by the severe animosity he had towards the heavens, but it didn't ask why. Ever since their first encounter, it had sensed that the kid was different and mysterious. The young man led the dark dragon hound and his other pets to hunt some more. They later found a god warrior beast. Su Ping personally took action and soon finished it off. He was greatly enhanced after battling ancestral gods. He also learned how to merge with all his pets at the same time, and felt that he could easily crush normal god emperors. The strength gap between them was humongous. Once his pets evolved into god emperors, his strength after performing the collective fusion would rise to new heights. Most importantly, his own physique had grown stronger after the merging. He could establish a contract with the power of the world within 230,000 kilometers, which was beyond the limit of any god emperor. He took the god emperor beast and threw it to the chaos perception dragon, then said goodbye and returned to the store. Hardly had Su Ping returned to the store when he received a piece of pleasant news. They had found a new universe in the void. They were in fact floating outside said universe at the moment, choosing not to enter recklessly. Shen Huang and the others waited for Su Ping to come back and discuss whether they should sneak in, mainly because they were concerned that there could be existences stronger than universe dominators inside that universe. It could also be possible that it was a place already conquered by the heavens. They had all the time in the world anyway, so they waited for Su Ping to come back first. After being briefed by Joanna, Su Ping immediately set off to the central palace. All the Celestials went to the palace the moment they learned of his return, including Kai Wying, the new universe dominator who had mastered the Tao heart. All the remaining humans were there. They had nothing to do except to cultivate, so they had plenty of time. Basu, Basu. Everyone piped down upon his arrival, then offered nods in salute. They became more respectful after Su Ping helped Kai Wying become a universe dominator. Su Ping saw Shen Huang and nodded. "Hello, master." Shen Huang smiled and said, "You heard the news, right?" "Yes, I heard that a new universe was found." Su Ping's senses stretched out towards the void and soon detected the barrier protecting a universe. The place seemed to have been covered somehow. The barrier was actually very small. It looked like a grain of dust floating in the void. However, the cover was incomplete, and Su Ping was able to detect the universe inside fairly easily. "I stumbled upon this universe by accident. I would have missed it if Boss Su hadn't helped me awaken my Tao heart," said Kai Wying with a modest smile. Su Ping nodded. Not entering recklessly was the right thing to do. This universe is covered by a Tao technique. Whoever was able to cover up an enormous universe must be stronger than a universe dominator. It's a being in the undying state. Existences at that level can sense everything in the universe. They'll notice you the moment you go in if you're not strong enough. Chapter 1446, New Universe 2. All those present exchanged fearful looks after hearing Su Ping's warning. Even if their intentions weren't malicious, they would be trespassers nonetheless. The local experts would certainly not know whether they were friendly or hostile. Besides, if they were too weak, the most normal reaction would be to either destroy or enslave them. As for making new friends, would humans make friends with livestock? They had better things to do. "Should we go in?" asked Kai Huo. Everyone looked at Su Ping. He had told them that they had to look for more allies out there after leading them out of their universe. There were undying state experts in that universe. It was definitely a potential ally. Still, it remained to be seen whether or not they would want to establish an alliance. "We need to go in, but we must sneak in first and investigate. I don't think this universe looks good. It may have been detected by the heavens already," said Su Ping after pondering for a moment. Everybody was surprised. Shen Huang asked, "How so?" Su Ping said, "The Tao technique outside of this universe is damaged. It's a clear sign of having been attacked. If the undying state experts inside were alive, they would have fixed it. You wouldn't have detected this universe if the cover was fully functional. It would have been completely hidden." Everybody was dazed, while Kai Wying looked wary. "No wonder I was able to sense it. In other words, is this universe as desolate as the one we visited earlier?" "We won't know until we see it. In any case, we must sneak in first." "Wouldn't sneaking in be too dangerous? We'll be hopeless if anything happens to you," said Shen Huang immediately. He had always seen his disciple as humanity's last hope. The cultivation levels they had learned from Su Ping made them feel desperate. Without him, it would have taken countless years for a universe dominator to be born in the human clan, let alone the undying state and beyond. "I'm good at stealth movement. Should I sneak in?" asked Su Kong all of a sudden. Everybody gave her surprised looks. She volunteered. That exploring task could easily get her killed. All of them were celestials, but they became much more modest ever since they saw the greater experts. Su Ping looked at her. He smiled once he noticed that her offer was sincere, not just a polite gesture. "No, I have a better candidate." There was a slight change in their expressions. Some celestials looked normal, but they were actually feeling nervous, since they were also experts of stealth. Su Ping waved a hand, and a figure appeared from the void. She was none other than the Saint Heir from the planet of origin. Kea Follett looked at Su Ping and the Celestials present. She said with a shy and angry tone, "What do you want from me?" She knew that nothing good happened to her when Su Ping took her out. With everything coming to that point, she no longer expected to regain her freedom. Maybe death would be her freedom. "There's a new universe in front of us. You need to sneak in and investigate," said Su Ping. "I will teach you stealth techniques. You won't get caught as long as you're careful." "You're asking me to do your dangerous scouting again," said Kea Follett angrily. "That's the only reason why you're still alive. Why else do you think I haven't killed you?" Su Ping asked back. She gnashed her teeth. However, getting back her freedom after having fallen into Su Ping's hands was impossible. Su Ping glanced at her and said, "It seems that your memories need some adjustments. Better not resist. If you do a good job, you will always be remembered by future generations as the sailor who discovered the New World." "Who wants to be remembered?" Kea Follett was furious. She didn't care about that pointless achievement. Su Ping wasted no time. He simply imprisoned her. He modified her memories and signed another contract with his Tao heart. It was different from the one used for pet control. He would only enslave and control her, all without being influenced by the latter. If necessary, Su Ping could even control her through the contract, without worrying about her betrayal or receiving false reports. Kea Follett became docile all of a sudden. Once he was done with the tampering, she opened her eyes and said to Su Ping respectfully, "I will surely try my best." All the Celestials gasped when they saw her change. They too would probably forget who they were if Su Ping ever applied the same method with them. Shen Huang and Kai Hua weren't too surprised. They had already seen the young man use the method before. However, a long time had passed and Kea Follett seemed to have found herself again. This was probably because there were loopholes in her modified memories. "You're too weak right now. I will help you activate your legacy in full so that you can enter as a dominator," said Su Ping. Kea Follett's eyes glittered. "Thank you, Master." She spoke with awe and loyalty written all over her face. "Master." Everybody was dazed. They didn't know how Su Ping had done it, but he had apparently replaced the Saint King in her memories. Noticing her respectful demeanor, none of them thought she would be as obedient, even in front of the real Saint King. Su Ping rose and said, "I'll take her to the store and help her pass the tribulation. I'll let you know when she's ready." Everybody else rose in a hurry and saw Su Ping off. Once he left the palace, Su Ping took Kea Follett back to the pet store. He went to the test room and examined her memories. The memories related to the legacy were locked. However, considering Su Ping's current Tao expertise, cracking such a lock was an easy task. After all, the War Emperor who had granted her the legacy was only a God Emperor. He quickly saw the guy's legacy information and relived the guy's life. He revealed his talent in a weak tribe and rose unstoppably. There were signs of the heavens in his universe too. Su Ping realized that something was wrong. According to the guy's memories, the heavens were banished from the universe. Wait a second, the guy's body was in my universe. So the heavens he saw were the heavens that entered our universe, except that they appeared a long time ago. Su Ping quickly changed his expression. The heavens had been aware of his universe and entered it, but they were expelled. Back in that war, the War Emperor was just a general. There were many fuzzy figures in his memory. Those people were too strong for him to even remember them. The heavens were banished. No wonder his body floated near the crack in the universe after such a long time. It wasn't a coincidence. It was the lingering will in his corpse. The heavens were actually banished from the universe. Their last battle had to do with their expulsion. This determination wasn't erased despite the passage of time. Su Ping didn't expect that the heavens would have known his universe since a time long past. There was once a glorious era, with countless powerful beings as strong as ancestral gods roaming about. They were able to beat the heavens. The experts of our universe must have also hidden our universe, back in that era. However, The concealing barrier was gradually damaged after they sacrificed themselves and banished the invaders, just as the new universe we just found. Then, a crack was formed in our universe, which attracted the heavens a second time. Su Ping looked awful. He felt a deep grief and regret. Had he grown stronger sooner, becoming an ancestral god 100,000 years prior, he would have been able to wander beyond the universe and review its history, thereby fixing the concealing barrier. That way their universe would have been left alone. Nothing would have happened. Chapter 1447, 7 Universe of Machines 1. With everything reaching that point, it was simply too late to talk about the past events. Su Ping only felt deeply regretful. After all, too many lives had been sacrificed in the universe because of the barrier's decay. After reviewing the guy's legacy memories, Su Ping simply extracted the recorded techniques and summoned Kaophalet's consciousness to interpret them for her benefit. The guy, Dao Heart, was eternal fighting. As long as his soul and body remained, he could continue fighting. It was an eternity of sorts. Without a doubt, it was an extremely powerful Dao Heart. No wonder his body was still so determined to fight, years and years after his demise. Too many stories must have taken place in our universe. It's just that they were lost in time and nobody knows about them, Su Ping mumbled. Kaophalet was able to understand at a very quick pace, all thanks to his teaching and interpretation. She had basically been teaching herself thus far, but now she had the guidance of a teacher. Her improvement was fast and tangible. A long while later, once she fully digested the legacy, Su Ping resumed the normal speed of time and switched the test room into a desolate planet, just like he did for Kai Wang. He then said, "I'll help you with your heavenly tribulation. Be careful." "Yes, master." There was even more awe and respect in Kaophalet's eyes. Su Ping became as great as a god in her eyes. He flew up to the high sky and summoned a tribulation aura. Dark clouds gathered soon after. She polished her body with the lightning striking down. Her own aura became sharper and more condensed, and she gradually released the aura of a universe dominator. Kaophalet became a real universe dominator by the end of the tribulation. After appraising the second dominator that emerged thanks to him, Su Ping patted her shoulder and checked her memories again. He was able to confirm that everything was fine. Right before he taught her stealth techniques he learned from the Heaven Path Institute. Su Ping planned to set off with her when everything was ready. "Master, I will try my best," she said with a solemn expression. Su Ping nodded. "You must be very careful." "Okay." The pair went back to the palace. The Celestials gathered after receiving the news. Only 3 days had passed since Su Ping left with Kaophalet. Everyone sensed that the former Saint Heir from the planet of origin was emitting such a terrifying aura that their hair was standing on end. It was just as when they saw Kai Wang. A dominator. Kai Wang knew she was as strong as him from the moment he saw her. It was quite shocking for him. Only 3 days had passed. It was long enough for a celestial cultivator to transform into a dominator. That was Su Ping's terrifying ability. Some Celestials withdrew their surprise and spoke in awe. "Boss Su, you've worked hard." Su Ping gently waved a hand, showing that Kaophalet was free to go. Shen Huang spoke after she left. "We've prepared some exploration equipment able to transmit the views she saw through the gaps found on the universe's barrier live. If a few special conditions were met, she could even sever the transmission and record videos for us to watch when she returns." "Okay." Su Ping nodded and said to Kaophalet, "You can find your universe first. You may hide your equipment in your universe first. Your primary mission is to hide yourself, while the second one is to investigate. Understand?" "Yes, master." Kaophalet felt warm. She nodded obediently. Shen Huang gave the equipment to Kaophalet. All the experts witnessed as she left their last land of hope with everyone's expectation for that unknown, dust-like universe. Guided by Su Ping, she soon found a vulnerable part on the barrier protecting the unknown universe and quietly broke in. The former returned to the palace and waited for updates with the others. After all, accidents could take place at any time. Everybody saw a live feed sent by her equipment as she went in. Based on what they saw, Kea Follett was flying in quiet space. The stars in that universe were quite dim, and only some flickering lights could be seen. It seemed that the stars found there were sparse. Everybody's heart was tight. They were nervously observing the feed. Kea Follett carefully approached one of the lights. Su Ping could only watch. There wasn't any feedback other than the visuals. However, Kea Follett was able to sense more through the original Dao world, which couldn't be captured by any equipment. The light became gradually clearer as she moved closer. It turned out to be a planetary system. There were dozens of glowing planets around the star, their lights reflecting upon each other. The planetary system was quietly spinning and moving forward in space. There were dozens of planets in it. The smallest planet was like a meteor, while the biggest was even larger than the sun. She lingered outside the astral object for a moment before she pressed forward. She obviously didn't detect any lives in that system. The images captured by the equipment were unable to show more details of the planets from such a far distance. None of them expected that one of the few planetary systems in that universe was actually desolate. Chapter 1448, Universe of Machines 2. Some celestial state cultivator mumbled, "I wonder if there are signs of life on those planets. It's fine if there aren't any." In the scope of a universe, myriads of planetary systems would be unfit for lives to be born because of their harsh conditions. However, it would be terrible if life signs were detected but not seen. All the experts watched quietly as Kea Follett continued exploring. After a long time passed, she made a sudden stop. The live feed from the equipment became blurry before it turned dark. Their expressions changed right after. "What's going on? Was she attacked?" "It's so sudden. Did you see anything?" "I don't think she was attacked, but she must have encountered something. She willingly turned off the equipment." All the Celestials were rather excited. Su Ping waved a hand and reversed time in the temple. The suddenly interrupted feed reappeared. The replay was much slower than before. They noticed that there was nothing unusual in the entire process. That could mean that Kea Follett had probably turned off the transmission because she sensed a powerful existence and feared that she could be exposed. After all, the waves from the equipment were clearly visible for powerful existences. "I wonder if she was detected." Everybody was anxious about Kea Follett's situation. Su Ping frowned. Considering her combat ability, as long as she hid well, with the God-Emperor techniques of the Heavenly Path Institute, very few people could notice her unless she ran into ancestral gods. The celestial cultivators, people who had lived hundreds of thousands of years, never felt time flow as slowly as it did at the moment. Half an hour later, the picture was suddenly restored. The feed was still showing images from the dark universe, but there were more lights now. Kea Follett approached them one by one. They were planetary systems of different sizes and distances. However, there was nobody alive in them. She passed by the glittering solar systems. Beyond that was a pitch-dark universe without any other light sources. Kea Follett kept on moving. The darkness relayed by the video feed was permanent, making the viewers think that the equipment was broken. The place was so dark, they couldn't even tell if she was moving. Not even Celestials could detect anything else. A long while later, the dark feed flickered, followed by an intermittent light. Everybody saw a green-colored radiance. Then there was a dazzling light, as if a black curtain would have been lifted. They then beheld a green and vigorous planet. Oceans and continents could be seen. This planet was extremely massive and vast. Kea Follett paused for a moment and then chose to slowly approach the planet. Tides in the oceans could be seen, with many giant beasts swimming up and down. There were magnificent buildings too, as well as deserts and long bridges joining the continents. "There are living beings." Great! Everybody was thrilled. The existence of living creatures on the planet proved that the newfound universe had yet to be discovered by the heavens. It could work as their temporary base. They could even look for allies there. The buildings on the planet were quite futuristic. They were soon able to see images of the main species, highly similar to humans, except that their heads looked like water drops, while their necks and arms were narrow and long. Their torsos were thin, and their skin was blue and smooth. Those creatures were 3 meters tall on average, and were found everywhere. Kea Follett was currently hiding with a certain method, allowing her to relay images of those creatures at a relative proximity. This is. Su Ping looked at the humanoids and frowned. He found them rather familiar, feeling he had seen them somewhere before, but the answer was still eluding him. The blue-skinned humanoids seemed to be in a harmonious relationship with other living creatures. The giant beasts in the ocean would also play with them. Su Ping's aide flew in the planet's high sky, passing buildings and continents, until she eventually reached a towering mountain. The mountain rose from the ground like an enormous horn protruding from the planet. However, upon closer look, it could be seen that the mountain was smooth, apparently made of metal. Countless people seemed to be living inside. "The technology on this planet is rather developed," said one of the Celestials with a solemn tone. He was a science advocate. "How did she find the place? She passed through some sort of dark region. Did she block the feed for a moment?" "No, maybe the planet is being blocked by that darkness," said Shen Huang solemnly. Their hearts raced, feeling the strong urge of asking Kea Follett to return and answer their questions. The situation was scary in a way. "Don't worry. So far, so good," said Su Ping. "She wouldn't have gotten that close if there were universe dominators on this planet. It means that the local experts are in the celestial state at best. The heavens wouldn't come here if such a developed civilization existed." Everyone felt much more at ease after Su Ping's explanation. Kea Follett reached the mountain a while later. She stopped all of a sudden, as if detecting something. The picture was turned off once again, but they still managed to see that she was fleeing from the mountain. Their hearts raced a second time. "Looks like she found something," said a Celestial with a contorted face. Another Celestial chimed in, "Maybe she's been found out." There wasn't any extra information they could glean from the video feed, and could only wait anxiously. Su Ping frowned again. He was still recalling the familiar feeling. It came all of a sudden. His pupils shivered as the memory resurfaced. He had seen those people in one of the cultivation sites. It was just a random cultivation site he had picked to train a customer's pet. The cultivation site was said to be suitable for metal pets training, so he went there. The metal mountain and the blue humanoids helped Su Ping remember. "This is one of the system's cultivation sites. I remember it's middle-ranked and the strongest person is in the celestial state." Su Ping's eyes glittered. However, Kea Follett's reaction didn't seem to suggest she had met a celestial. Could it be that the cultivation site was somewhere else in that universe? There were too many cultivation sites listed in the system. Su Ping had never counted them. The sites for lightning pets training were numerous, let alone all cultivation sites combined. "If that's the case, I can go to the cultivation site and ask them for more information." Su Ping's eyes glittered. He had never really explored that place, simply regarding it as a training place. He could pay it another visit. He could establish an alliance with the ancestral gods. They had left their own universe in search of more allies. Although the task was risky, he had the protection of his store. There was no need to be overly worried. "You can wait for her to come back. There's something I need to do," Su Ping said to those present. He couldn't summon Kea Follett over. Instead of waiting in the palace, might as well go there and learn of the situation. None of the experts dared to ask him for clarification. Shen Huang said, "Feel free to go. I'll ask someone to send word when she returns." "Okay." Su Ping nodded and returned to his store. Back in the store, Su Ping displayed the list of all the cultivation sites. He entered the middle rank category and continued screening those he had visited already. World of Machines middle. Feeling tempted, Su Ping switched to the high-rank cultivation sites, which were much fewer in number. 10 minutes later, he found the World of Machines high. "Just as I thought, one universe has been divided into different cultivation sites." Su Ping read their descriptions and found how similar they were. He felt reassured after figuring out they were both the same place, except that the things roaming the land had different combat abilities. Chapter 1449, Sneak In 1. Su Ping picked that advanced cultivation site and intended to visit their ancestral gods. He paid the ticket fee and experienced the familiar transfer to the site. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself underneath a green sky. The sky was like a piece of glass or a green lake. The clouds were thin and the sun was bright. Below was a prosperous city. The city was full of metal structures and seemed to be highly futuristic, with a wild, splendid architectural style. Some buildings were like enormous wine cups, while some of the others resembled airships. Su Ping spread his senses and soon noticed how the sky was extremely vast. Even he was unable to sense its borders. It was clear that the world underneath such a green dome was no smaller than the Archean divinity. 1, 2, 3. Su Ping could vaguely sense that many auras were hiding in the buildings, all of God Emperor level but extremely feeble. It was as if they were cautiously holding back. God Emperors usually weren't that cautious, unless they were battling. However, there was only prosperity, based on what everyone could see. There were no signs of war. This must be a place in the new universe. I should go ask someone. Su Ping concealed his aura and reached a square where gray-blue-skinned people were walking around. He morphed into one of them to blend in. It was very easy for him to change his body structure. Aside from the core bloodline inside his body, any other part was just like that of a real native, including the blood that circulated underneath his skin. At the square, a slender, gray-blue woman was walking about. Unlike human beings, the natives didn't have any hair. Even though they looked bald in comparison, their heads akin to water drops carried a strange sense of beauty. All of a sudden, that gray-blue woman disappeared. In another layer of time and space, still in the square, Su Ping laid a hand on the woman's forehead. Her skin was cold, metallic, and smooth. There was a scorching soul underneath her skin. Su Ping sank into her consciousness and searched for information. He quickly figured out where he was. The city where he landed was named Azi, which was a middle-sized machine city in the world underneath the green sky. The planet was called Green Glass World. According to the woman's memories, the planet was as boundless as a universe, with countless machine cities. Hundreds of duchies had been established, and above said duchies were the hyperenergy gods. The hyperenergy gods had a superior status. They could even decide the fate of a duchy. Su Ping delved into the woman's memories and saw her entire life, starting from birth. To his surprise, she had already lived for 300 years, and she had just reached adulthood according to her civilization standards. Fetus, glass pool, knowledge irrigation. Her civilization was entirely different from that of humankind, being evidently more advanced. All the gray-blue natives were born in an enormous, machine-like womb. Once the bobbies were born from what appeared to be a huge pool of amniotic fluid, they would be delivered to a place called the glass pool. There they would live for 3 years until their bodies were capable of walking, running, and eating. After that, their parents would fetch them and go home. Knowledge collection would come next. They didn't go to school to acquire knowledge. Instead, they would pay some money to create a connecting port on their bodies, which they would use when going to the Hall of Knowledge, plugging a data cable to said port. Knowledge would be transferred directly. They went there every 10 days while having to pay each time. The first 5 years were free and mandatory. They would acquire the basic knowledge of their people. Anything after that point, there was knowledge that had to be paid. The woman that Su Ping kidnapped was from a rich family, one that supported their members with 50 years' worth of studies. She was a senior engineer among her people and had a well-paid job. She also knew some ancient combat techniques, which were something that only nobles had access to. Still, it was in fact no different from arranging flowers or making coffee. The gray-blue people usually fought with hot weapons. That woman carried 3 of them. She was strong enough to hunt ocean state beasts. The elites of this society are generally in the ocean state. Back in the Federation, Even the elite members of some big families would be hard-pressed to reach this standard. Su Ping's eyes glittered. As expected of an advanced cultivation site supervised by ancestral gods, they were strong in general. They even had expensive weapons able to fold time and space. Weapons of such functionality would give their users star-state combat ability when equipped. Aside from technology, the source energy they cultivate depends on their talent. Is that the real method for them to rise to the ultimate level of cultivation? Su Ping thought. The gray-blue people were not short of knowledge, but they lacked inspiration and creativity. Knowledge was easily accessible by paying money. However, creative minds were rare. Su Ping perceived something right then, so he decided to send the gray-blue woman back to the square. She didn't feel a thing while being in that solidified time and space. Her only perception was of falling into a trance while in the square. She had no idea she had been kidnapped by an alien. "Come out, I didn't mean to offend you, Su," Ping said toward the void. A moment of silence passed, then a figure walked out. He was a brawny gray-blue man who stared at Su Ping coldly. "You're not a local. Where are you from?" "I come from another universe." Su Ping's aura had been exposed since the teleportation. It came as no surprise that someone had tracked him down. He said with candor, "It's a place beyond your sky. My hometown was attacked, so we came here to seek help." Their communication was conducted via telepathy. It facilitated the understanding of what Su Ping meant by universe. Beyond the sky. The gray-blue native changed his expression and became even colder. "Everything beyond. The green glass is a monster. How bold of you to invade." "I'm afraid there's a misunderstanding." Su Ping quickly reacted and said, "There's a vast world beyond your green glass, where all kinds of races and civilizations exist. Monsters you mentioned may well be enemies we have in common. We too see them as monsters. They destroyed our home and that's why we're here." The local expert gazed at Su Ping. His deep blue eyes seemed to be scanning Su Ping's body. After a long while the man said, "Better not do anything rash. I will report the matter to the Selvegas. It'll be up to them to decide." While dazed, Su Ping asked, "Are you a hyperenergy god? Looks like you stole some intelligence about my people." The gray-blue man was colder still, but he didn't attack. Su Ping's aura was too powerful. Besides, he was unwilling to recklessly go ballistic against an unknown civilization. Su Ping then noticed that a few others were approaching, traversing the void. Their auras were well hidden. All of them were god emperors. He wasn't worried. He was calm as he simply said, "Why don't all of you come out? I'm not here to fight. I hope that there's a chance for us to communicate peacefully." "We're not crazy about war either," said the cold expert keeping watch on him, but he was secretly alarmed. The foreigner wasn't a simple fellow, since he was able to discover his partners who were approaching in secret. "Is the Selvega you mentioned your highest leader?" asked Su Ping. "Goddess Selvega is our mother. She is omnipotent and omniscient," declared the gray-blue man proudly. That was also a warning. While his expression remained casual, Su Ping nodded and said, "How long will it take for her to come here?" Exactly at that moment, an indifferent and distant female voice was heard. "Foreigner, show us your original appearance." Chapter 1450, Refusal 1. Su Ping turned around and saw a blue-skinned woman with a streamlined body. Unlike other humanoids, she had a curly-looking crown on her head. It was deeply attached to her body, as if it were part of her flesh. An ancestral god. Su Ping narrowed his eyes. The woman was emitting such a powerful pressure that all the blue humanoids were eclipsed, just like a queen rising to her throne. Goddess Selvega. The god emperors of their race quickly bowed, their bodies emitting a dim blue light from their chests to their heads. Showing their machine core was their way of showing the greatest respect. Su Ping removed his disguise, as he had already been seen through. His body began to crack. Instead of turning into a human being, he turned into an almost 10-meter giant emitting the ancient aura of chaos. That was the real look of his primitive Chaos clan bloodline. The humanoid god emperors had shock on their faces. not expecting Su Ping's original self to be as intimidating. Although his power was beneath Goddess Selviga, he still brought forth a sense of threat. The Chaos Clan. The woman changed her expression a bit. Blue circles of light flashed in her eyes, as if examining his body through a secret technique. Su Ping exposed himself openly, simply letting her observe as a show of sincerity and willingness to establish an alliance. Oftentimes alliances could never see the light because the two parties couldn't agree on mutual interests. Why are you here? Are you going to involve us in a war? The woman stared at Su Ping, shedding all hostility as she didn't sense any ill will from Su Ping. However, his visit was an extremely terrible sign. Senior, why do you think that? Her answer surprised him. Does she have divination powers? Why would she know the reason I came here? However, divinations were just calculations based on the operation of the Great Tao. Considering Su Ping's ability, he could predict everybody's fate in his universe, since he could look at the end of time. However, such predictions were probably not applicable in other universes, due to the blockage of the different universe barriers. At the very least, he would need some time to observe. There was no such thing as divination in the world. All results were fixed and could be observed. The Chaos Clan was arrogant in the past, nearly going extinct in the ancient war. You must be one of the survivors. You didn't sneak into our territory just to find shelter, did you? Said the woman coldly. Su Ping asked, Senior, you seem to know the Chaos Clan very well, don't you? Of course. After the Chaos Clan was destroyed and the Age of Chaos ended, we were the second batch of lives born right after the gods who inherited your legacy of arrogance. However, we attach more importance to history and know you better than the gods do, said the woman coldly. Su Ping was rather surprised, not expecting her to know about the gods as well. He asked in a hurry, Senior, if you know of the gods, do you know how far from here is the Archean divinity? If he could find the Archean divinity and the Heaven Path Institute, he could at least entrust the lives kept in his universe to the Heaven Path Institute for protection. That way, he would again be able to cultivate in peace. I don't know, said the woman coldly. The Empyrean is vast and boundless. Who knows where the Archean divinity is? They should be hiding if they're smart enough. However, those arrogant fellows probably don't know the importance of keeping a low profile and met their doom already. Su Ping instantly asked, The Empyrean. Do you mean the realm of heavens beyond the universes? Then you should know who ended the Age of Chaos, right? Other than the heavens, who else? The woman stared at Su Ping. You don't seem to know your history well, considering that you're a descendant of the Chaos Clan. Have you forgotten how your ancestors died? It's been such a long time ago. Many things were lost, said Su Ping. I'd really appreciate it if you could tell me, Senior. The world has truly changed. To think that a member of the Chaos Clan would be so humble, I'm even starting to wonder if the history I saw is real. The woman chuckled with mockery in her eyes. Better give up trying to get us involved in your war. We're living in seclusion. We didn't seek anyone's protection when the war took place, and we will not participate in anyone else's war. Su Ping felt rather speechless. She had turned him down before he could even broach the subject of the alliance. Seeing that her guess was right, the woman sneered and said, For the sake of you being part of the Chaos Clan, the origin of everything, I won't give you a hard time. Go back where you came from, and I'll consider that this never happened. Senior, according to what I've heard, were you attacked by the heavens too? Su Ping didn't give a direct answer. He tried to change the subject. That's right. It's a good thing that the supreme heavenly Tao wasn't alarmed, or we would have been annihilated, said the woman. We're living a great life right now. We won't fight another war. Senior, indeed I came here with the intention of establishing an alliance with you. Su Ping stared at her. He thought for a moment and decided to face the problem with the most sincere attitude. My hometown was invaded by the heavens and nearly got destroyed. However, I know that there are many more universes and powerful species that have also been ravaged by the heavens.